Going to accept the fact that you took a step back because there was some lawsuit filed. Can we get back to business?
No, we did
in
nothing.
any manner. I mean, they signed Tyler Wade.
Besides the winter meetings when Preller spoke. But
right.
I still think once the Roki news drops, then they will start making some moves.
Talking Padres. Now, time for John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Hour one, John and Jim, and we have you covered. We're talking about the lawsuit that isn't being discussed elsewhere here on San Diego Sports 760 and John and Jim. In fact, if you missed our conversation with the author of the piece that broke the news of the lawsuit, Eben Novy-Williams, Sportico, if you missed it, you'll hear it at 2:30, and then listen to this, Kevin Acee, who wrote a long, detailed piece on this lawsuit that could rock the Padres organization. I think those were his words. Kevin will join us live here on John and Jim coming up at 5:30. We also have Aztec basketball tickets for a week from tonight, San Diego State, Colorado State, to give away. Darnay Tripp will join us. Will Brinson to talk NFL will join us as well. But you and I agree on this. Like, this is now the biggest Padres story of the offseason. End of sentence. This is the biggest story. And if you're not talking about it, you're doing a disservice, because this is a huge story. So we're going to cover the story that should be covered, and we have you covered for the next 4 hours and for however long it takes for this thing to resolve, which could be weeks, months, or years, truthfully.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it obsessively for the next 7 years every single
hold on now. Hold on now.
Says the show that's been talking about Roki Sasaki for
say
3
that.
months.
Don't say we're not going to talk about it obsessively.
I meant every single second of the day.
Yeah, we'll take a few seconds off.
Yeah, a couple segments here and there.
Absolutely.
Like Reverend Will Brinson on today, talk about the NFL postseason.
I'll get his thoughts on the lawsuit, though.
Towards the end of the conversation. Right. This could go on for a long time. And until it gets resolved, yeah, this is the number one story with this franchise. You know, they will make transactions eventually. They will sign players eventually. They'll win games, they'll lose games. Hell, they might make even a couple more postseason runs during this lawsuit period. But the underlying big story that until it gets resolved is the number one story with this franchise is this lawsuit over the control of the team. Like, full stop. Like, anybody telling you otherwise, like, they're wrong. You know, so if you hear from somebody, it's not a big deal, or yeah, we'll just let it pass us by. Or like, yeah, well, we're right. We don't know all the details yet. We have a lawsuit, which is what it is. It's a lawsuit. It's basically their side of the story. And there's a lot more to come from this. There's a lot more details to come from this. But the headline, Sheel Seidler has filed a lawsuit against Peter Seidler's brothers over control of the team. That's the story until it's resolved.
And there's a chance it gets ugly. And this is from the writer at Sportico. This is from Kevin Acee. And this is from Evan Drelich at The Athletic. Brent, we have the sound, right? So Evan Drelich is a really good voice on baseball, particularly like the nuances of baseball, the labor negotiations, the numbers behind the sport. And he spoke on this earlier today. What's the impact here and what's to come moving forward as Sheel Seidler has sued for control of the Padres?
I have not seen that video, but look, I have no idea if that surfaced naturally or what. But I think the point here that I would take away from the fact that is even out there right now is it's going to get ugly, right? This is an infighting of wealthy people, and with a very prominent property, and who wouldn't want to run a baseball team, right? So, or have the money that comes from the ownership of a baseball team. So, I think the real question is, how quickly can they get through this? Is this a 2025 issue? And how messy does it get? The longer a court situation unfolds, the more of a headache the commissioner's office in Major League Baseball has to deal with, right? I got to imagine that's not what they want. And so often what happens here is there's some sort of settlement worked out behind the scenes. And, arguably that could be one of the things that Sheel's hoping for here. But we just don't know. We don't have the full paperwork. We do, some of the court filing does have some of his trust paperwork involved, but there's so much here we don't know.
Right. We don't know a lot. There's a lot to come. This is just step one. I'm sure we're going to see a countersuit by the brothers of Peter Seidler that are named in this lawsuit. I'm sure we will get a lot more to come. This is just step one in this whole process. But, thinking about this and seeing the reaction on social media, and the social media reaction is what it is. Like, it is just on social media. It doesn't represent every single, member of this Padres fan base out there. But I will say, this thing has already gone to court. The court of public opinion, it is done. And that court of public opinion is fully backing Sheel Seidler. Now, a court of public opinion has nothing and has no sway on anything that happens in an actual courtroom. Legal documents, those types of things, it doesn't matter what the court of public opinion says. If those legal documents, state that Peter entrusted the Padres organization to his brothers going forward and not Sheel, then that's going to be the end result of this. But it is, it's going to be very hard for Peter's brothers at this point in time to ever get past this from what Sheel released yesterday in that lawsuit. Because I tell you what, you read that lawsuit over and over, and if you're a Padres fan, there is no way that you're going to be backing Peter's brothers at all, because the person that you're going to be backing is the beloved owner's widow, Sheel Seidler, and that's that.
Have you ever? Now, you've never read a book, correct?
From start to finish. He's never finished a book.
These are his own words. And I've referenced this like 7 times over the 7 years I've been on air here at San Diego Sports 760 or with iHeart San Diego. There's a book that Dr. Seuss wrote called The Zacks.
Oh, not The Cat in the Hat?
You've read that?
I've heard of it.
The premise of the book, The Zacks, it's not Z-A-C-K-S, it's Z-A-X, is that there's 2 of these characters that are so stubborn they won't get out of each other's way, and they build a whole city around them. They won't move left, they won't move right, they won't move forward, they won't move backward, and everything operates around these 2 characters, these 2 Zacks, so to speak. That's what when you start getting into a game of high-stakes poker, like a sports franchise being on the line. And again, we had Eben Novy-Williams with us yesterday. If you missed that conversation, you'll hear it coming up at 2:30. He broke this story. But he said, oftentimes, this is not us saying this, and you'll hear it at 2:30. He said, oftentimes, there's so much power and money on the line that the only way there's any clarity is the team ultimately gets sold. The Denver Broncos family couldn't resolve their disputes. They sell the team. The Baltimore Orioles under Peter Angelos couldn't resolve their differences. The team gets sold. We know about the McCourt situation with the Dodgers, the bus situation with the Lakers. This is played out time and time again. Now, it doesn't always get sold. But there are countless examples of a team getting sold because there's so much bitterness, stubbornness. I mean, look at the allegations in this lawsuit. These are significant allegations. These truly are bombshell allegations alleging racism, misconduct, theft, essentially, of shares and money. So, like, are you going to be able to walk that back on both sides? Or how ultimately will it be resolved? And that's why people are at least beginning the conversation of talking about what's next for the San Diego Padres. Will it be a different ownership group moving forward?
And yesterday, the first reaction that we had was like, I feel bad for Sheel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But who's going to really, be hurt by this that has nothing to do with it are the fans. The fans have absolutely nothing to do with what is happening now behind closed doors with the Padres.
Right.
And unfortunately, they're the ones that are going to be potentially suffering from this because, show me an organization that has infighting between ownership members over who should control the team, and I'll show you a losing franchise. Rarely do you see everything working out beautifully during these times of control over the team between family members or share owners or whatever. It usually means the team is paralyzed from really trying to do what they're trying to accomplish, which is win a World Series. And we've seen it firsthand this offseason. Like, if this is what's to come with this franchise, where it's going to be quiet off seasons, quiet winters, not a lot of moves made. You know, that's going to be a problem because the on-field product's going to suffer and the fans are going to get pissed, and they're already pissed, you know, because the actions of the team are not backing up the words that they have put out. And they're going to be looking at whoever's the owner of this team, if it's not Sheel, and be pissed.
Yeah, you know the adage in baseball, hope springs eternal.
Yeah.
Every team goes into spring training thinking they have a chance to do something special, and there have been teams to go from worst to first, and you really never know. But from this start of 2025, how can you go into spring training with the same level of excitement and enthusiasm that you would have in a normal year? Now, I think there's a caveat, and we'll get the latest on this from Bob Nightingale and Jeff Passan, and the Roki sweepstakes.
There's a caveat, yes.
are ongoing, and the offseason is not over. And I'm not making a definitive statement, but I am making a statement that as we sit here today, it's a lot more demoralizing heading into 2025 than it would be otherwise if this lawsuit and this legal entanglement didn't exist. Like this whole hope springs eternal, I'm on board, but they got to show me something, like pull the Roki Sasaki rabbit out of a hat or make a significant move or have this come to some type of settlement. I need a vision on the future coming off 2024. And this only further demoralizes me, which in turn I have to imagine has demoralized Padres fans to some extent as well.
You know how hard it is, though, to have that like thing that you just talked about, which is the vision of the franchise when you have this going on now for the foreseeable future.
Right.
It's damn near impossible. You can't go to your fans and tell them that you have this vision when everybody knows what is happening behind closed doors, at least on the surface level. They don't know all the details, but the surface level stuff is Sheel Seidler, the widow of the most beloved owner in this town, is claiming that the people that are now in charge, which are his brothers, are misusing the franchise for their own personal gain, and they don't have the same vision as Peter, and they're trying to block her out of the organization, and there's allegations of racism involved. You can't tell a fan base or rally a fan base at all until that is resolved. It's just plain and simple. I don't see how you can. Really, I really don't. And if you can see how they can do that, I'd love to know. But at this point in time, I just don't see it until it's resolved. This is going to be murky time in this franchise's history until we get a resolution.
Yeah, it's like it's a fair point because it's like, can you succeed like in the midst of like a scandal occurring around you? And I'm not even calling this a scandal, but like I'm trying to think about like those big sports stories that play out off field. Are they separated between on field and off field? Like, can a team avoid something that's swirling around them and still be pointed forward and have success? I think there probably are examples of it. I just feel like it makes it harder. And that's the last thing the Padres want because they're in this division that it's already hard enough. And I feel like this is only making it harder. I think they have ultimately probably a good baseball team. I think they got a lot of good players. I think they're capable of winning. But does this make it harder to win? I would say, yeah.
I think it all is a trickle-down effect. And I hope I'm proven wrong this year. I hope they actually are a good team again.
Right.
And I hope they win 90-plus games. I hope they make the postseason and, have a team that everybody can be proud of and they are exciting again and all that stuff. But, when the vibes are off, it feels like a trickle-down. The vibes last year, as soon as the season started, they felt good. Even though the offseason was the offseason and you get into the season and then things start happening and okay, ready to go. This does not feel like a situation that is just going to be like put to the side and it's being taken care of in the corner and it doesn't affect the entire franchise. I feel like it does. I feel like it will. I feel like it already has. I feel that the construction of this team is being affected by this right now. And until we find out who the actual owner of this team is going to be long term, I mean, how can they operate how they have operated in the past?
Why did Sheel Seidler put in the lawsuit that the brothers perhaps would move the franchise? You'll hear from Evan Drelich on the other side. Plus, if you missed our conversation with the author that broke the story at Sportico, we'll have it for you coming up at 2:30. Kevin Acee joins us today. We have Aztec tickets for next Tuesday night against Colorado State to give away. Don't go anywhere. We've got you covered from all angles on this story on John and Jim. All right, the author that broke the story on Sheel Seidler's lawsuit. If you missed the conversation, we have a story coming up in 10 minutes. If you have not downloaded the old radio app, it is there for you. Not me, for whatever reason. I literally checked this afternoon. I do not have access to the all new iHeartRadio app. It's a bit of a running joke at this point. But if you want the presets, if you want to listen to John and Jim, you don't have to be in Southern California. You don't have to be on YouTube. You can take the show with you, and it's podcasted there, and you can listen to it live, and it's a great resource. It's an amazing audio resource for our listeners, so make sure to check it out if you haven't checked it out.
One of the best features of it is the presets feature, and I just have locked and loaded what I want, and it just, boom, I press the presets, goes right to it. I don't have to search for it anymore. I don't have to go to the search bar. It's all ready for me in the presets feature of the app. Also, what's pretty cool is wherever you go, there's this live radio dial. Like, so, you know, in your car, you have the radio dial, you can skip and stuff like that.
No.
Okay. Well, here, you know, my location service is on San Diego. So I got Star 94.1, Channel 933. I got KGB, Rock. I got Kogo, and I got Us, and I got other stations as well. It's like they're all under the iHeart umbrella, and they're ready to go right at your fingertips. It's awesome.
All right, so download the all-new iHeartRadio app. So Evan Drellich is a really good baseball reporter for The Athletic, and he's been talking on the Foul Territory podcast, which we play more than we play John and Jim, on John and Jim about this lawsuit. Now, remember, sprinkled in the 90 pages was a line about perhaps the brothers would consider relocation, which is like something you just don't want to say anywhere, specifically in San Diego.
Not here, no.
Rockets, Clippers, Chargers. I mean, shoot, back in the day, the Padres absolutely could have moved. They were on their way for Washington, D.C. 50 years ago.
Yep.
So take a listen to Evan Drellich on that portion of the lawsuit.
All right, here's one that I think you can discuss. I saw the R word in there. You know the word?
Relocate. It was, and this is what I was talking about.
That.
It's a very, when I was saying earlier that it's a cleverly worded lawsuit, and I don't mean that pejoratively. You know, that's the kind of thing you put in a lawsuit to get attention, and it got my attention, and I tweeted it. And you know, it is suggesting in hedged wording that the brothers of Peter Seidler, that Matt and Robert, have considered or would consider relocating the team, and that is something that Sheel would not do. And certainly, relocation to San Diego is it's a hot button topic anywhere. In San Diego, you're really pulling on some heartstrings there. But you know, that's again, that's why this is a. You know, I talked to somebody who knows the organization well yesterday, and they called it a high level PR exercise, and I think that's true. And I don't mean that it is a lawsuit without merit, but I think it was effective in painting the brothers of Peter Seidler in a certain way. And, you know, that's something that those brothers now are going to have to deal with and kind of come back against.
Yeah.
That's your public opinion point.
That's what I've been talking about, is that the court of public opinion has made their choice, and it's been less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is already decided. The brothers of Peter Seidler are not in the good graces of the fan base, and they might not ever be in the good graces of this fan base as long as they're controlling this team, unless they win a championship, or unless they actually, I don't know, you know, back their words up with actual action, you know, because right now they're not doing that. So the words that they say and the statements that are released by the Padres are completely hollow, in my opinion, until they actually show us that they're going to be, you know, actually honoring the legacy of Peter Seidler that they continue to tout to fans every single year.
The reason I would be very surprised of either a quick settlement or even Sheel Seidler ultimately taking control is like she pulled out all the stops here.
She did, yeah.
Like, for this to be resolved, and you say, hey, listen, these brothers are racist. They would move the team, and they've stolen chairs, essentially, from my family.
And they're not living up to Peter's legacy, and Peter would have a gut punch.
Come back from that? Like, is that resolvable? That seems to me like, now the courts can weigh in. The courts can say, you know what, the lawsuit has no merit. The brothers are representing ownership. Or the courts may say, you know what, she is going to be the legal owner of the franchise, and here's why.
Yeah.
But a settlement based on such a bombshell lawsuit. And I do think it's fair. And maybe that's the point of a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You're trying to make your case, make your point. And I think she certainly did that. Now, how much of that is going to hold up in court?
Mhm.
Does she have legs to stand on? Like all these things we don't know. I mean,
Right.
we'll figure that out in the months and years ahead. But to me, when you file that lawsuit, you've basically taken away the possibility of a quick settlement.
Mhm.
Like it seems to me like those claims are so strong that wouldn't ultimately lead to an immediate settlement.
Yeah. Now, I do believe that her end goal of this whole thing is to be the control person of this franchise.
So not settlement.
I don't think so. Now, I've been seeing this on social media, and I don't know if this is true or not, but people are posting her social media handles, and people are saying, like, I don't remember that in her like bio before, and in her bios it says Padres owner. Now, I don't know if that's something that has been there for a while, or if that's something that she recently just changed. But that is an interesting little side note, is that she, in her social media profiles, has in her bios Padres owner.
She's the widow of Peter Seidler, whose trust is now calling her claim meritless. Like, think about that.
Right.
Peter Seidler's trust, not Peter and Sheel Seidler's trust.
Mhm.
Peter Seidler's trust yesterday put out a statement completely negating her claims.
Right. And if anything, what I was going down is, yes, I do believe that Sheel's end goal is to win this lawsuit and to be the control person of this franchise and make sure that the people that she, that are in charge now, that she's alleging, aren't going to do the things that she's alleging them to do. But I also do think that, if she does not win this lawsuit, the damage has already been done. The damage has already been done to the Seidler brothers that she is referring to, Robert and Matthew, and to John, who is now the control person of this franchise. That damage has already been done. If she doesn't win this in a legal courtroom, okay. But she has made it very clear that the people that are in charge of this franchise, A, don't have the best interest of the fan base or this franchise, and B, should not be running it, and that they're not upholding the legacy of their late brother.
Okay, we're going to continue to react to that because there's a lot there. And Eben Novi Williams, he broke this story in Sportico that a lawsuit has been filed. He joined us yesterday on John and Jim. If you missed the conversation, it's fascinating. And he shares what he thinks may happen next. You're going to hear it on the other side. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away for next Tuesday night against Colorado State. Kevin A.C. Darnay Tripp on the show here today as well with their reaction. Stay with us on John and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Aztecs, they take on Air Force tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. Our pregame coverage starts at 6 p.m. San Diego Wave today, they hired Jonas Edeval to be their next head coach. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
At the pursuit of Roki Sasaki, we've got the latest report from Bob Nightingale and Jeff Passan to share with you later this hour and next, plus Aztec basketball tickets to give away. But again, the author of the article that basically broke the news of the lawsuit yesterday, his name is Eben Novy-Williams. He works for Sportico. We had him on yesterday. If you missed our conversation, we started by asking him what he thinks comes next.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I mean, the first thing that we're going to hear next is at some point, I assume we'll hear Matt and Bob Seidler's side of things. There are a lot of allegations in here from Peter's widow. Some of them are quite ugly about the two of them, about other family members. And I would imagine at some point a lawyer of theirs is going to file something that is going to give us their side of things. I would underscore that this is not, shockingly, it's not that uncommon to see, particularly for these billion-dollar sports assets, to see family members following the death of a control owner at odds and disagreeing about what that person wanted and how a team like the Padres can continue and under whose direction.
How much of a case does Sheel have here with her lawsuit, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, she's making a lot of interesting claims about not just particularly her situation. So she claims that she is the sole beneficiary of the trust that has the control stake of the Padres. Both two of her brothers, first I believe it was Bob and now Matt, were executive trustees of that. And she is claiming essentially that they are not following in the wishes of what Peter Seidler wanted. But a lot of this, I think, is going to come down to kind of the estate planning law and what exactly the trust says, what exactly the trust gives power to the trustees as opposed to the beneficiary. And I think a lot of it also, and I'm sure you guys saw in there's a handwritten note from Peter talking about who was going to control this team after. I think some of it is going to partially hinge on what she can prove were Peter's wishes before he died.
Yeah, my next question was going to be about that handwritten note. I mean, there's a lot of handwritten notes are we don't know when they're written, don't know who wrote them, but still at the same time, when you have this, if it truly is Peter's handwriting, how much is that going to, play into this, or how much can that affect things? Or is that just as I said, it's just a handwritten note. You can't really do much with that.
I think the more that she can prove that Peter's wishes were that she be the person that owned this team, be the person that made decisions about this team, be the person that managed this team, and that eventually it would go on to their children. The more that they can prove that, I think the stronger their case is. And again, I say that without knowing what Bob and Matt Seidler and if other brothers or family members get involved, what they're going to claim in the reverse. But I think a lot of this is going to claim on how direct she can tie the line between what Peter wanted before he died and what is happening right now.
Eben Novy-Williams, Sportico, with us right now on John and Jim. In your opinion, what type of impact could this have on an organization as it deals with this?
It's tough. And if I think back right now, some of the biggest major sports teams that have had kind of ownership infighting like this after someone died, a lot of those teams end up getting sold. The Baltimore Orioles, I think, are a really good example. The Angelos brothers, this deal was struck before Peter died, but there was a lot of struggle within the Angelos family about what the ownership structure was going to look like when Peter Angelos was gone. That team obviously ended up selling to a group led by David Rubenstein. Another big one from the past few years, the Denver Broncos. When Pat Bowlen died almost a decade ago now, his kids could not figure out who was going to run the team, how they were going to consolidate ownership in a way that would make the NFL okay with keeping it in the family. And as a result, that team sold to Rob Walton for $4+ billion. So oftentimes when we see fights like this among family members, the end result is the team gets sold. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. Every situation is different, but very often when you see arguments like this among family members, the end result is that everybody goes their separate ways, and they go their separate ways with a pretty big financial check.
So Sportico reported today that the team is valued at over $2 billion. What do you think this franchise could sell for if this, happened, like you said, if it goes down that path? What do you think this franchise could sell for?
I would use that number as a pretty good barometer right now. Those numbers are done. My colleague Kurt does those, and he does them with pretty thorough understanding of each team's financial situation. The Orioles, again, sold for a pretty high number, which is the most recent MLB control sale. So use that as a basic barometer for what we think other teams in kind of the middle of the pack in terms of valuation in Major League Baseball might. And $2 billion, the Seidlers bought this team in 2012, their control stake, and they paid $800 million for it. So it's already more than doubled in value in the time that they've had it. Very frequently for ownership groups, the sports team is not only the most valuable asset they have, it's the fastest appreciating asset they have. It's the coolest asset that they have. It's the one they all want to be a part of. And again, that makes it harder and harder when it comes time to decide without the control, the scion, the longtime control owner in the picture, who it is who's going to make those decisions.
Eben Novy-Williams, Sportico with us right now. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Knowing what we know now that this lawsuit's been filed, the Padres, I don't know if you've paid close attention, but they haven't spent a penny all offseason. And their payroll from 2023, when Peter was representing ownership, to today has gone down precipitously. How much of their lack of spending, in your estimation, has to do with what's going on behind the scenes?
I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I can guess that this is probably some of the details that she's laying out here have probably something to do with changes in direction. According to Sheel Seidler, she has said that for much of the later end of Peter's ownership of the Padres, she was very involved. She was consulting him on managerial hires. She was consulting on free agents. She says that she was interfacing with team agents. She was attending MLB owners meetings. Now she says the Seidler brothers have essentially told her she's not welcome and have told employees that they're not to trust her or take advice from her or consult with her. So yes, if what she's saying is right, there has probably been a significant shift in the way the team is operated, just because not just Peter gone, but Peter and Sheel are gone. So I don't know for sure, obviously, what free agency would have looked like or what some decisions that the Padres might have made differently. But according to her allegations here, there has been a more significant break in the philosophy of team ownership and management, more so than just Peter passing away, but also her leaving as part of the decision tree as well.
Reading through the lawsuit, what stuck out to you the most about the lawsuit here from Sheel?
I mean, part of it, the things that I think maybe interest me is maybe more of the mundane stuff. She's making some allegations about financial fraud and fiduciary duties that don't really have to do with the Padres, but some dealings that the Seidler brothers were doing with other assets of the Seidler Trust. There's some details in there. I just mentioned one of them about her not being able to use the owner's box anymore. There's definitely some petty stuff in there that I think obviously hints at there being some bad blood probably in both directions here. So yeah, I think those are two that jumped out to me. It seems pretty clear to me, and kind of reading between the lines, and also in some of the things that Sheel said, she's fighting for her family here. And when I say family, I think she's talking about her children. I think what she thinks is if she can get control of this team, that means her kids are going to be the ones that take over after her. And she clearly feels like that is not just what Peter wanted, but also is the right thing for the succession there. So yeah, I think in some ways she's definitely fighting for her own role here. But in the back of her mind, I'm sure she is thinking very intently that if she takes over, if she is the control person, it makes it very easy to make her children the control people, or one of her kids the control person, when she's ready to hand that over as well.
Really fascinating. Eben Novy-Williams with us from Sportico. He broke this story on the lawsuit today at Sportico with us on John and Jim. How long can this take to get resolved? Is this months, years? What's typical here?
Yeah, I mean, this is the American judicial system, so nothing would surprise me. The Pat Bowlen with the Denver Broncos, which I mentioned earlier, that took 7 or 8 years off the top of my head. It was a long process between when Pat died and when that team was sold. All of the kind of back and forth between the Bowlen children and the trustees. It was years and years and years. So maybe the answer is this could be months if things are really shocking or go really easily. But if there's a legal fight here, if the other Seidler brothers decide they have something else to say and really want the courts to decide this, yeah, you could be looking at years as an understatement, probably 5 years maybe, in terms of when a final adjudication of this happens.
5 years.
Oh, that's
no,
fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
Yeah, nice and easy. Yeah.
I mean, this really was, Evan, and we appreciate you for joining. I mean, this was shocking to us today because, you know, the Seidler name in San Diego is one of such prominence, and Peter is regarded as good of an owner as maybe there's ever been in the history of professional sports in San Diego. Now, we all know he's gone. But for there to be this lawsuit and this infighting, I don't think it was necessarily expected from the outside. And now that this is playing out in the public eye, it's going to get potentially messy. Certainly for Padres fans who have been really good. I mean, Padres have drawn incredible numbers, and for this to be on the other side of Peter Seidler's passing is just, I think, unfortunate for a lot of people.
Totally, and a team that has spent not above its means, but spent more than a lot of other teams in its situation have been willing to spend in the past to get to the level of some of the highest spending teams in the league. And baseball, as you guys well know, it's a sport where if you're not willing to spend that, you're probably not going to win.
Right.
This is not the NFL where everybody pays the same amount of money and there's tremendous parity, and you could be good one year and bad the next. If your Major League Baseball team is not willing to spend a lot of money to get players, your Major League Baseball team is probably not going to win. So definitely more so in baseball than almost any other sport, at least here in the U.S. But yeah, the direct tie between financial willingness to spend and also success is quite direct.
No doubt. Evan, appreciate it. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Same to you.
All right. Again, our conversation with the author that broke the news of Sheel Seidler's lawsuit. Now, is this going to impact their pursuit of Roki Sasaki? In your mind, you say, well, it has to, right? There's new reporting today from both Bob Nightingale and Jeff Passan we'll share coming up. Plus, we're giving away Aztec basketball tickets. Plus, Kevin Acee and Darnay Tripp will join the show. Stay with us. Aztecs basketball tomorrow night. They'll take on Air Force at Viejas Arena. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away for a week from tonight.
Oh, what's nice.
It's very nice. 1 week from tonight, Colorado State will be at Viejas. We have tickets to give away 2 pairs. In fact, but tomorrow night, pregame coverage is 6:30. Me and Fletch. Ted will have the tip-off right around 7:30. You're home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. So with all this negative attention on the Padres, could they possibly pull off the improbable even without the negative attention, which is landing Roki Sasaki? I think most people would have told you that the Dodgers throughout this process were considered the favorite, even before we knew about the lawsuit. Not so fast, my friend.
What?
Bob Nightingale, I don't know if he's ever missed.
Oh, no, not Bob Nightingale.
I don't know if he's ever missed.
The curse of Bob.
I know. So he writes today, thank you, Talking Friars,
Who?
that while the Dodgers have been the heavy favorites to sign Sasaki for the past year, with some teams convinced he already made up his mind, the San Diego Padres have emerged as the new choice among executives. Whatever that means. That's Bob Nightingale today. The San Diego Padres have emerged as the new choice among executives. Now, did the executives know about the lawsuit? Does the lawsuit matter to Roki Sasaki? Is it a factor or not?
I would be hard pressed to say that it isn't something. I don't think it means nothing to the pursuit of Roki. He's choosing where he's going to be for the next 6 years minimum.
Mm-hmm.
This thing could last, the lawsuit, for at least 6 years potentially.
Imagine that.
And in that time, hard pressed to think that the Padres franchise is going to be doing everything they possibly can to make sure that they have a winner on the field. And by everything they possibly can, I mean, I don't know, spending money, making moves, maybe push the envelope a little bit here and there, because kind of need to do that if you're in the position the Padres are in to maybe win a World Series. Like, pushing the envelope is the legacy of Peter. And I don't think this franchise, while it's under the current ownership, is going to be doing that.
So, okay. And that's basically what we've been saying the last 2 days. Well, why are executives saying this?
Now,
were they asked before the lawsuit and that's their opinion? Has their opinion changed since the lawsuit? Why would executives be saying that Sasaki to the Padres is more likely than the Dodgers, as opposed to the media? Because the media has said the Dodgers are more likely than any other team. So what do the people on the inside know that the media maybe doesn't?
I think it really all is speculation at this point. Now, what is going to be kind of like that red flag, not red flag in a bad way, but red flag in like a type of way, is the international signing money that it was reported that a team that potentially will sign Roki will make moves to increase their international signing bonus money
come January 15th.
And also the inactivity with teams signing international players on January 15th will kind of know, in that window, whoever does spend probably is out, but whoever doesn't is going to be in. Now, it's being reported right now that the Dodgers, along with the Padres, have kind of put a hold on international signing money and international signings until at least January 25th to wait out the Roki Sasaki decision.
I think the Padres have put a hold on everything.
Well, they've put a hold on like the franchise.
Who reported that?
Marcos Grunfeld covers the Dodgers for the beatwriter.com.
Okay, so neither the Padres or the Dodgers are expected, once the international signing period opens, to make a splash outside of Sasaki.
He reports the Dodgers are pushing back their international amateur signings to January 25th as they are awaiting the Sasaki decision, a source says. He also commented to somebody asking, is there any other teams attempting to do the same? And he replied, yes, the Padres.
Interesting. Okay, so, I mean, maybe the more things change, the more they stay the same. Maybe at the end of the day, it'll be a 2-horse race. Who reported a mystery team today?
John Morosi.
John Morosi says, by the way, apparently Sasaki has met with at least one other team other than the quote-unquote Big Seven.
Mm-hmm.
Padres, Dodgers, Cubs, Rangers, Giants, Yankees, Mets. How about that? So there were 7 that he reportedly met with in Los Angeles. Maybe there's an 8th per John Morosi, but maybe the more things change, maybe they're just staying the same. I mean, at the end of the day, how impactful is it on Sasaki or not? It's really on the representation for Sasaki to make that determination. It's hit. Joel Wolf's client is Roki Sasaki. Any good agent should make a good recommendation. So is there something here that should be concerning to his client or not? Maybe there isn't. It's not the first lawsuit in baseball history.
No, it's not.
Dodgers dealt with this a decade ago.
But the Dodgers also a decade ago in the McCourt era didn't win.
Yeah, and it's certainly, quote unquote, paralyzed them for a period of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I could argue, along with on the field, from just like a PR and a vibe standpoint, more PR than anything, landing Roki Sasaki would do wonders for what's happening inside the organization right now behind closed doors. And by what I mean is it will take the focus off of that and put it on to Roki.
The Padres need it way more. This is like the 15-1 Chiefs playing with a backup quarterback against the Broncos. They need to win to get in. Yeah, I mean, the Broncos had to win. The Chiefs didn't.
Oh, yeah.
The Padres have to land them. The Dodgers don't. They're fine without them, LA. I mean, more than fine. They're the World Series favorite with them. They're the World Series favorite without them. The Padres don't land them. Where do they even turn? All right, further reaction, including reporting from Jeff Passan today on what's next for Roki Sasaki. We'll give away Aztec basketball tickets for a week from tonight against Colorado State. Will Brinson. We'll talk some NFL coming up at 4 p.m. Speaking of those Chiefs. Darnay Trip at 4:30. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, back in the show at 5:30. We're here until 6. Don't go anywhere. Hour 2, John and Jim. That comes your way next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. San Diego State basketball back tomorrow night at Viejas Arena against Air Force, 7:30 tip time. Of course, you can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this morning, the San Diego Wave announced the new hire of Jonas Edeval to be their next head coach. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
Previously on John and Jim.
Can this organization do anything, though? We know now about this legal filing from Sheel Seidler. You gotta be able to conduct business. Nobody's gonna accept the fact that you took a step back because there was some lawsuit filed. Can we get back to business?
No, we did
In
nothing.
any manner. I mean, they signed Tyler Wade.
Besides the winter meetings when Preller spoke. But
Right.
I still think once the Roki news drops, then they will start making some moves.
Talking Padres. Now, time for John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of John and Jim. We will give away tickets to see the Aztecs play Colorado State next Tuesday night at Viejas Arena. We also have Aztecs basketball for you tomorrow night. Air Force, San Diego State, 7:30 tip, 6:30 pregame. But we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away. We'll do it this hour. Then Will Brinson at 4 p.m., CBS Sports NFL writer. We'll talk about the postseason. Are the Niners going to make it? Probably not, since the postseason's already set and they suck.
Yeah, they're not making it, John.
Will the Bears make it?
What if they had
like a play your way in?
No. Like, in fantasy football, they have the consolation bracket, all the losers.
That'd be awesome. For a draft pick. The winner gets the top pick.
So
the
top 10,
18
the top 8 teams or the top 10 teams or top 12.
No, that's a really good point. You're right. Okay, the teams with the worst record right now, they're out of the consolation bracket. So they're going to pick hear me out. There's 12 teams in the real there's 14 teams right now in the real playoffs. Let's take another 14, put them in the fake playoffs. The 4 worst teams, sorry guys, you suck. You pick behind the consolation bracket. So it encourages winning.
But I want to see the worst teams play each other for the chance to win the number 1 seed.
All right. Well, we can have the worst 4. We can have the worst 4 do a semifinal in Super Bowl.
I want to see the Patriots versus the Giants
in the Stupid Bowl.
Yeah, the Stupid Bowl.
The Stupid Bowl
for the chance to pick number 1.
Get rid of the Pro Bowl and do that. Give me Patriots Giants that Sunday.
Yeah, winner of that game gets number 1 pick.
Perfect. That'll be watched by 12 million people
easily. It would be amazing that if the top 2 worst teams in the sport play each other during the Pro Bowl weekend for a chance to winner gets the number 1 seed, loser second pick.
Number 1 pick.
Number 1 pick,
yeah.
Sorry.
I'm down. Who says no?
I don't think anybody
maybe the fired coaches and the fired executives and the players that want to get to Cancun.
Right.
All right, so we'll give away Aztec tickets this hour. We just shared what Bob Nightingale said, that the Padres have emerged as the new choice for Roki Sasaki among executives. Wait, what? And now there's this from Jeff Passan today at ESPN Plus. And he wrote about the biggest winners and losers this offseason. You want to take a guess at the biggest winner this offseason?
Let me guess. That would be the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Do you want to take a guess at one of the biggest losers this offseason?
It would be either the Miami Marlins or, at this point in time, the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, he doesn't rank them specifically. There are winners. Dodgers are in that category. There are losers. The Padres, obviously, are in that category. And he goes on to write this. Sasaki will be the biggest bargain in baseball. And while San Diego isn't banking its offseason on him, losing Sasaki would be calamitous, aka bad news. And then he writes this, particularly if it's to the Dodgers. But he says calamitous. Now, Jeff Passan uses big words.
Yeah.
But
it took me a while to even realize that.
But we've spent 90 days being like the eggs are in that basket. While they don't. Now, Dennis Lynn wrote this.
90 days.
Now, Dennis Lynn wrote this. He said they don't envision themselves on the inside of the organization to be true front runners. They think they're in on it. Remember, Mike Schilt was like, hey, yeah, everything's great. We're going to land him, and he's going to work out in Peoria. I mean, Mike Schilt was like, we're in good shape. But then Dennis Lynn reported, well, we'll see. And now Jeff Passan's saying that, yeah, they're not banking everything on it, but if they lose out here, it's a problem, which is what we've essentially been saying for the last 90 days, even before this lawsuit.
You know how I know that they're banking on it?
How's that?
Along with what is happening behind closed doors with the lawsuit, which is being reported as almost paralyzing them for making moves. They're banking on it because they haven't made any moves. And because they haven't made any moves, and this is the one move that they can make of any significance this offseason right now, if they don't land him, it will be, as Jeff Passan said, calamitous. It will be a disaster on top of another disaster on top of another disaster. It will be a trickle-down effect. It will be 24 straight scoreless innings. Lawsuit by Sheel over control of the Padres against Peter Seidler's brothers, losing out on Roki. The trifecta of awfulness that potentially could be coming this offseason. If they do not land Roki, I don't know where they go if they don't land Roki.
Let me give you a hypothetical real quick, because I agree with you. 95% of Padres fans are Team Sheel, right? Let's just say that. And maybe it's
probably
higher,
more than
but
that.
Let's just say it's easy to say 95. That's fair. That's everyone.
Yep.
Let me give you a hypothetical. He signs with an organization that is not the Padres. It could be anyone, Dodgers, Rangers, whomever. And during the introductory press conference, when asked about his choices and candidates, he says, it came down to this team that I signed with and the San Diego Padres. And one of the reasons why I went here was because of the uncertain future of the Padres.
I don't think he would say that.
I don't know. It's not that crazy.
But if he were to say, I chose here because of the stability of the franchise and the ownership, which I love the owner,
would that
would immediately go to what the hell?
Would that change public opinion on the lawsuit? See what I'm saying? Because everyone's Team Sheel. And I agree with that team, by the way. I mean, if I'm just being honest, if I'm being honest, that's my opinion too. I don't know all the facts, so I'm going to reserve some judgment, but I'm Team Sheel. You're Team Sheel, by and large.
Yep.
Could it change in a scenario where, to your point, he says, I chose the Texas Rangers because it's the most stable franchise in baseball, and some of my other options didn't present that same stability and desire to win.
So what you're saying is, like, if this lawsuit never came out, potentially,
does it change the fortune of what happens with them and Roki? Because we don't know that. Because me and you yesterday were like, hey, now that there's this lawsuit, they're not going to get him. I mean, we don't know that, but that's where your mind wanders, that this lawsuit somehow could get in the way of that. Do we think that's true? Could this lawsuit, it's not Sheel's fault. I'm not saying it's her fault, but I'm saying, could this lawsuit get in the way?
What is more important to the future of this franchise?
The right ownership.
Yeah. So there's no right time to do this lawsuit. But the most important thing is the future ownership group of this franchise going forward. Roki Sasaki might be collateral damage, and that's a bummer because they need him badly. And the on-field stuff, I see in our chat, and this person makes a great point that by and large, the players are not going to be thinking on a day-to-day basis about who the owner of the franchise is. They are paid to play baseball, and their everyday operations, by and large, doesn't have anything to do with who the owner is, or the infighting, or the lawsuits, or anything.
You're not going to hit in the cage more,
no,
because you have a stable ownership group,
right? But where it does affect the team is in that front office and their ability to go make moves to help the on-field product, and that over time could turn into this team being a bad team again,
right?
Maybe quicker than expected. So not landing Roki because of this would destroy the front office that has been working so hard to try to land Roki. But it's not as important as who is the owner of this franchise. It's not as important as the now battle between Sheel and the Seidler brothers.
I agree, but it still hurts the same. It's kind of like when Tatis was suspended. If you would have told me on the other side he'd be quote unquote better off for it, like kind of lose the battle, win the war, I think it's where Tatis is right now. I think he's changed as a player. I think he's learned from the overall experiences he went through as a young person. It was very public facing. He's like a 20-year-old that's playing out in front of everyone. When me and you are 20, we can get away with mistakes that Fernando Tatis Jr. couldn't get away with.
Right. I'm not making hundreds of millions of dollars.
But I feel like maybe he has learned from some of that, and maybe it's been beneficial to him and even the franchise. But in the moment, when you learn of the wrist breaking because of lying about the accident, and then you learn about the PED suspension. That really hurt. It was hard to see the forest through the trees in the moment. Now, on the other side of it, we think Fernando Tatis Jr. has a chance to have a really productive career, obviously, as a Padre. Maybe same thing. It's like, if you lose Sasaki, to me, it's going to hurt like hell, and it's going to be hard to envision, well, you know what? It's just one move. It's just a short-term issue, but maybe the Padres will be better off 1, 2, 3 years from now based on what happens with their ownership. But that's still tough for me, man. If I see the news from Jeff Passan on January 21st, he signed with the Rangers, any of these teams, it all sucks. I mean, the Dodgers is the worst, but any of these teams, it's going to be super disappointing.
Jeff in the chat on YouTube, by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. He says, for everyone who's on Team Sheel, if Sasaki ends up going elsewhere, how many will turn on her and, quote, blame her for doing this lawsuit now?
That was my point.
And connect it with losing out on Roki. Will she be blamed?
That's my question. I mean, I don't think it's fair.
I don't think it is either. And as I pointed out, Roki is very important, but nothing is more important than
stable ownership.
Exactly. The future of this franchise in that ownership seat, the control person of this team. You land Roki, that's great. But what over the next 6 years during this lawsuit, the team continues to go downhill and downhill, and then landing Roki will mean nothing.
This is fascinating because I'm just thinking back now in my head about what AJ said at Seidler's memorial, and I'm picturing Yu Darvish and his wife lay down flowers on the steps at Petco Park, and I'm just thinking, like someone just said, it's true. Yu Darvish's bullpen has no impact on the ownership.
No,
but
no.
Like Jackson Merrill is like liking Instagram posts supporting Sheel Seidler.
Yeah.
Now again, that's fine. I have no issue with it, but to pretend like these people aren't human beings is not accurate. We're all humans, and we can pretend like something doesn't impact us. I'll give you an example. Like if we work at a company that isn't stable, no, I'm serious. I mean, if there's something playing out in, let's say we work in economic conditions where advertising is, there's a recession, so it impacts our ability to potentially work. Or let's say it's better economic conditions, or you get the point. Let's say you work for a company that might be going through an ownership change or a bankruptcy. Like it changes the way you pursue your work. So yes, I don't think it impacts Manny Machado's work in the cage. I don't think it impacts Ruben Diablo working with Yu Darvish, but everything is tied together.
Bosses matter, dude. They matter. And when you have instability in that seat, it matters. And it's a trickle down effect. It just is. Like, again, I've talked about this. Name me a franchise that has recently won at a high clip with instability in that chair. I'll wait.
I don't know. I mean, someone would have to take me through the whole drama with the buses in Los Angeles.
Now they did win a championship in 2020,
but that was after that all played out, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was definitely after. Genie was running the franchise well before that.
Again, I don't know the details of every single franchise in professional sports and their ownership issues. But like, I mean, again, do the Chiefs right now have problems in their ownership group? Who's the best team in the NBA right now?
I mean, last 10 years,
do the
Golden State would be there.
Do the Celtics have problems in their ownership group? Do the Warriors have problems in their ownership group? No.
All right, we'll continue.
Do the Yankees have problems? Do the Dodgers have problems? Do the Mets have problems?
It's a fair point.
No.
And the Mets did, by the way. Before Steve Cohen, it was a massive disaster.
And guess what? They sold. Cohen bought the team. Same thing with the Clippers. Now, they don't win, but still, Ballmer built the most beautiful arena known to mankind into a dome. And
after 20 years of debacle.
That would have never happened without him.
Yeah, with Donald Sterling.
Yeah, give me a break.
An embarrassment.
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue to react, plus give away Aztec tickets coming up next. Again, at 4 p.m., we'll be joined on the show by Will Brinson, CBS Sports NFL writer, Darnay Tripp at 4:30, Kevin Acee at 5:30. It's John and Jim. Starting next Monday, San Diego Sports 760 has 9 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the brand in your hand cash contest. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. starting next Monday. Listen to the then enter at sportsSD.com starting next Monday at 6 a.m. Presented by your trusted partner for solar, batteries, and roofing. Can we read this? And by we, can I read this and then you can react?
Go for it. Read it out. Read it out loud.
That's what I would do. I just read it to myself. What do you think?
Oh, what did you like that? What's your opinion on it?
So these are some parts of the lawsuit that we haven't necessarily discussed. Okay, but this is in the lawsuit. That's like 90 pages. I thought I was going to ask an AI software to summarize it for me, but I couldn't because it was just an image. It wasn't a PDF.
Now I know I've never finished a book before, but when I have some downtime, I might read the whole thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right. Your face, you're like, there's no shot.
And I might
you might become a bodybuilder.
Yeah, seriously. I'm gonna run a 5:05 mile tomorrow at Orange Theory.
Your face was like, no, bro, you're not reading.
No
that.
chance.
No
All right,
chance.
so this is in the lawsuit. According to the lawsuit, the announcement of John Seidler, this is right before Christmas. Okay. The announcement of John Seidler becoming the Padres control person stunned Sheel. Press articles of the announcement wrongfully said that John had the support of 45% of the Padres ownership, a number that includes Sheel and her and Peter's children and their control stake. Neither Bob nor Matt, these are the Seidler brothers, even interviewed Sheel or attempted to engage in a process with her to evaluate her in terms of being suitable to be a control person, okay, for the Padres, like the chairman. It goes on to say that one of the Seidler brothers, Matt, declined to give Sheel monthly updates regarding the Padres, the largest asset held by the Seidler Trust. Matt has refused to disclose whether he intends to take actions that would dilute Sheel's marital trust interest in the Padres, such as bringing in additional investors. So this is part of the accusation that Sheel made in her lawsuit. Thoughts on that specifically, that basically she was never even considered to be the chairman and that they're basically trying to dilute her level of power?
Yeah, like everything that we read from this lawsuit is all from her side.
Okay.
So we don't know what their side is, and I would assume their side is nothing even close to what her side is, right? These are allegations. We don't know it to be factual, but like if true, man, bro, that's a problem. That just makes things even messier and messier going forward. And this thing is already going to get ugly. I like people that are way smarter than both of us have said recently, like, yeah, this is going to get ugly.
Who are these people that are smarter than us?
Evan Drellich and
okay, fair.
Eben Novi-Williams.
Okay. Yeah,
they're smarter than
they?
Me.
Yeah, true.
Maybe not you, but when Evan Drellich says, "Yeah, this is going to get messy," I tend to take Evan Drellich's word on it. Evan Drellich's word. It's a hard thing to say, but I don't know. What do you think of that?
I think that a lot of the lawsuit is damning, and the part that we've kind of avoided is the part that actually has the most meat and potatoes, like what we just read. What people are talking about is, oh my gosh, there's racist accusations in here. And perhaps they'll move the team. Where in actual, the real shame potentially, if this is accurate, is what she's claiming is they're stealing the franchise from her.
Yep.
It's not about
that's like the summary of it.
There's racist undertones, and they said this about my heritage, and they might move the team to LA. I don't buy that. I don't think the team's going anywhere.
No.
And nobody wants to hear anything about her being treated unfairly or with racist undertones. That's ridiculous. But the real part of the lawsuit that gets to the matter at hand, who's going to control this team? If she's supposed to be a potential heir to the throne and she's not being considered, or she has a certain percentage of the franchise that's being watered down or diluted by the brothers, that's a problem.
You literally just said the synopsis for House of Dragon.
Thank you.
Like that is literally House of Dragon to a T. Or if you want to say Succession, go for it. But
I haven't seen either.
Well, if you watched it, you'd be like, "Oh, okay. Is this the Padres or what's going on here?"
I mean, the truth is, dude, when you start getting, like you've said before, billions with a B involved, I don't care if it's the most laid out document in American history. People are still going to fight over what it means.
Billions and billions of dollars, dude. It ain't millions of dollars.
Jim fact.
I
Jim
see.
said something yesterday in the wrap-up show that made no sense to me.
No, it makes sense.
Share it with Brent.
All right. So we had somebody in our chat last night, Brent, that was adamant that for a billionaire to spend $50 million on something is a lot of money to them. Now, to us, it's a lot of money. But let me just tell you what a millionaire is compared to a billionaire in this analogy.
Okay.
All right.
Listen to this analogy.
Do you know how many seconds is a million seconds?
No.
A million.
No. Well,
how many
days? Well, yeah, you're right.
days
How many
or-
days is a million seconds?
No, not off the top of my head.
11 days.
Okay.
Do you know how many days a billion seconds is?
More. I told him
it was
11
John.
days times 1,000.
Just
That's
guess.
what it is.
Throw out a number.
It's 11 times the 1,000. Whatever. More.
Yeah.
Just give me a number,
days
Brent.
or months
Days or
or
whatever,
years.
months or whatever. Just give me a number. What do you think?
30 days.
Try 30 years. So when someone tells you like $1 billion compared to $1 million, that's how like
Vast the difference is.
exactly. The difference between $1 million and $1 billion is 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 30 freaking years.
Or you could just use math and say a billion is 1,000 million.
I know. I'm just saying.
So
$1 billion is a lot of money.
It's having 1 million 1,000 times,
Yes,
which is ridiculous.
so.
I'd just go with the old Shaq thing of, there's being rich, which would be a millionaire, and
Right.
then there's wealthy. Wealthy is the guy that signs Shaq's checks. So you can be rich, but then there's wealthy.
Yeah, it's like rich.
Yeah.
Not Rich Orenberger, but
No, it's like rich. Really
rich. Edgar in our chat says, I think everyone should relax with the whole team Sheel. We need to hear both sides of this first. I'll say this is that yes, you are right. We do need to hear both sides, and we will hear from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But their actions are lining up with what Sheel is saying right now.
Or are they? Have they freed up money in the pursuit of Roki Sasaki? The latest on that comes your way next.
This update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Aztecs take on Air Force tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to the game right here on San Diego Sports 760. The San Diego Wave today hired Jonas Edeval to be their next head coach. In NFL news of the day, the Raiders, they have fired Antonio Pierce after just one season. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300, John. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
All right, Kevin Ace's going to join us at 5:30. Let's give away some Aztec basketball tickets coming up in the next handful of minutes. So don't go anywhere. This is next Tuesday night, a week from tonight. San Diego State and Colorado State. Next Tuesday night, we'll give away a pair of tickets to that game coming up in just a handful of moments. So there's something interesting going on. We're talking about ownership. We're also talking about Roki Sasaki. And we said that teams that free up cash internationally may be the teams that are trying to pursue Roki, right? This is what we've been saying.
Yes, but also the teams that go out and make trades to acquire money.
Extra money.
That would be like a like alert.
Well, you know Joan Ishmael de la Cruz Julian, right?
Bro, I watch his highlights every night.
Dominican baseball prospect. Well, at one point on his Instagram, he had professional player for Padres listed, okay? Because he's eligible, I think, to sign within the next few days, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, he no longer has that listed.
Yeah,
professional player for the Padres.
Because the Padres, along with the Dodgers, and I'm sure other teams, are putting a freeze
on signing these young international.
Yes. I that to me is no surprise. If all of a sudden we see a report that the Dodgers have made a trade to acquire international bonus money,
you're going to get worried.
I would get worried.
Now, this can't happen until January 15th. There's no adding international bonus
8
money
days
until
away.
January 15th. Right. So, I mean, we're kind of counting down the days.
Yep.
I mean, we have been counting down the sweepstakes for,
oh my gosh,
a painstaking amount of time.
Because this freaking team hasn't done anything.
Right.
It's like, all we got is this. Now we got a freaking lawsuit to talk about.
I mean, we're doing a wrap-up show last night, to your point, and the Oakland A's, or wherever they even play, Sacramento, Las Vegas, wherever, the Oakland A's signed Brent Rooker, their DH and former Padre
legend,
to a 5-year, $60 million deal. In the same offseason, they signed Luis Severino to a $63 million deal.
Something like that.
I think it was 3 years, 63, 21 a year. So 63 plus 60, 123.
What?
They've spent $123 million. The Oakland A's, who play in a 11,000 seat stadium in Sacramento. It'll be hot.
Yeah.
They won't have day games, by the way.
No.
In the summer months.
They won't
move
have
them tonight.
What else will they have? They won't have like long homestands.
Why wouldn't they have long homestands? I'm curious to get your opinion here.
I don't know. I just saw somewhere that there's like an interesting quirk with their scheduling.
I think they might be on the road a lot in the summer.
I think they are.
Same with, Tampa Bay playing in like the Yankees spring training stadium?
In Florida, yeah.
They're gone for like the better part of 6 weeks.
Jeez.
In like July and August because it's so damn hot and it rains every day. So I don't know what it means, but what I do know is most people have said that the Oakland A's ownership is among the worst in sports. Yet they've spent $123 million this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know as to why. My guess is to get in good graces and goodwill with Las Vegas.
Well,
because you can't get to Las Vegas and be the worst team in the sport.
Also, they're under severe pressure to spend money now that they've moved. Like, hey, you moved your franchise. Guess what? Now you better spend.
Right.
You can't just rot away in Oakland anymore. You got to spend some money.
But even in Sacramento, I guess is my point. I mean, it's not like they're going to be rolling into cash.
Well, it also has to do with getting a stadium built in Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're under directive orders from Major League Baseball and pressure from other owners. You got to start spending some money, guys. Like, you can't all of a sudden move your team and then it become a more valuable franchise and not spend money. That's just like a clear breach of being an owner of a franchise in Major League Baseball.
How about this? So because the A's are moving to Sacramento, spoiler, it's hot, and they play outside. In June and July, 25 of the A's 28 home games will be played at night.
Oh, they play a couple day games in there
somehow, and then including only 6 Sunday day games from June through August, but that's only 3 months. Most day games will come in cooler months, as 11 of their 21 total day games will be played in April and May.
Look, I love day baseball, but if it's at the night time, it's fine.
Is their home opener against the Padres April 7th through the 9th?
It
Because
is.
They play I'm asking the. I don't think
I
it
don't
is.
know.
It might be their second series.
I don't know.
Padres are there early. Is the point? They'll play in Sacramento.
That's good. At least they're not there in June. Well, they wouldn't be there.
You're right. No, you're right.
But still,
yeah. So I don't even know where we were going. International money. Okay, it's being reported the Padres are freeing it up. I don't think that means they're landing him. I think they're putting themselves in a position where they feel like maybe they have a shot, which would confirm some of the reporting, which is the Padres think they're in on Sasaki. They don't know if they're the favorite, but they think they have a realistic shot to land him, and they're going to do everything in their power to at least put themselves in a position to do that.
Yeah, with the lawsuit, this has become an even bigger potential acquisition. You land Roki, man, that would take the spotlight off of what is happening behind closed doors with this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And once opening day rolls around, once the first spring training day rolls around, hard pressed to think that many conversations are going to be had, unless there's news that gets reported about what is happening with the ownership group and between Sheel and the Seidler brothers.
Right.
So you land Roki. I think everybody and all Padres fans can breathe easy a little. And while this thing could still get very ugly and the future of the franchise is definitely up in the air, at least people will know for the immediate future, like landing Roki Sasaki is a big get for this team.
By the way, someone put on the text line, Jim, 70470 started with team 760. Hey guys, didn't the Lux trade, Gavin Lux, give the Dodgers more international money? And no, that was not anything to do with international money.
That was to free up a spot for Haesung Kim because they just signed him.
Correct. Because they had like 6 middle infielders and they need 3 or 4.
And Mookie's going to be their shortstop.
Yeah. So no, I mean, they got a return for Gavin Lux, but the return I don't think has anything to do with their pursuit of Roki Sasaki.
Right. I don't think it does. No,
this international money thing is confusing. But again, the indicators are there's going to be teams come January 15th that make signings, significant international signings, allocating real dollars to these players. The reason teams that are in on Sasaki won't be doing that is they're trying to save their money for him. So, and by the way, there'll be multiple teams that don't spend any money. So we're not going to know day one, like, only the Dodgers and Padres haven't spent any money. So it's down to those two teams. But it might be an indicator how serious these teams feel they are, like recruiting him. Like are they serious suitors for Sasaki or not? We might find out before, January 20th based on what they do internationally.
Right. Man, dude, the closer we get to this decision, D-Day, the more important it is that the Padres land him. I feel like
he should do it like LeBron when he left Cleveland or whatever.
The decision,
yeah.
Who's Tom Rinaldi? Is that who did it?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Who's Tom Rinaldi?
I don't know. I mean, are you going to do this thing in Japan or are you going to do it in the U.S.?
Probably in the
States,
yeah. Or he does like a recruiting thing where they have like hats on the table, and he puts on a hat. He's like, nah, throws the hat away. Puts on another hat, nah. And he puts on another hat, gets up, and everyone's like cheering. And then he rips off his jacket. It's a completely different team. He throws the hat down. He picks up that team's hat and puts it on. I'd love that.
Yeah, he could do it with like Stephen A. Or like some daytime sports talking head personality.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I like that.
That could work.
Could work.
Just rent out a Boys and Girls Club in Cleveland.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And then don't sign with the Guardians or the Marlins.
Yeah, use the Cleveland as a
decision
plot.
And then just sign with the Padres.
The decision part due.
Yeah, exactly.
Call right now if you want to see the Aztecs next Tuesday night against Colorado State. Tickets may be available right now at goaztecs.com. San Diego State, Colorado State next Tuesday night, Viejas Arena. Call right now for a pair of tickets. Caller 7, you're going. 877-767-4760. Call right now. Caller 7, you're going. 2 free tickets to see the Aztecs take on the Colorado State Rams Mountain West action. You can hear the game right here on San Diego Sports 760. 877-767-4760. Will Brinson from CBS Sports will join us at 4. We have more tickets to give away, and Kevin Acee joins us at 5:30 on John and Jim. The NFL postseason starts Saturday. Did you realize that? A couple of games?
Yeah, John, guess what happened Saturday afternoon? Right here on San Diego Sports 760.
Well, you can listen to the Aztecs and the New Mexico Lobos today. The slot they were born to play in. The Houston Texans playing Saturday at 4:30 Eastern for like the 100th time in their postseason history. They played 8 consecutive.
It's amazing.
Saturdays at 4:30 Eastern because nobody cares. Their franchise has
nobody cares.
Nobody cares, and they always play like a not sexy opponent. Like
they're always the 4th
franchise
seed
in LA.
They're always the 4th seed.
Exactly. Like they're never the one. They're never playing like the most popular. They're never playing the Chiefs in the opener. Although I think they did once.
They might have been
They
on
had a
it.
21-0 lead and they blew it. Remember that like 6 or 7 years ago?
Yes, that was with the Deshaun Watson.
I think that was also Saturday at 4:30.
Maybe it was.
Maybe before the Chiefs run with all these Super Bowls.
So we have the Texans on Saturday, and then Monday we have the Rams and the Vikings.
Right here on San Diego Sports 760. That Monday game is at 5 p.m., which means we're going to be preempted for an hour. Should we go podcast only from 5 to 6?
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, maybe we'll even go 5 to 7.
Nope.
Okay. Well, we're 2 to 5 on Monday. You can hear the Chargers and the Texans on Saturday. And is that at 1:30 Pacific? Chargers Texans on Saturday? Yeah, after the Aztecs and the Lobos at 10 a.m. Pacific. So
Correct.
we're loaded up for you Saturday and then Monday. And Will Brinson's going to join us coming up at 4 p.m. We have more Aztec tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up next hour during Trainwreck Radio. And then we've got a really good couple of guests for you. Again, Will Brinson, CBS Sports on the NFL postseason. Darnay Tripp at 4:30 on the Padres mess. And then Kevin Acey has been reporting on the Padres mess. He'll join us coming up at 5:30. Which matchup are you most intrigued by this weekend in the NFL? 6 wildcard games. Which is the most intriguing, compelling, best?
Glad you asked that, John.
Thank you.
Great question. I'll give you 2. All right. Number 1, Rams Vikings.
Okay.
Because I think the Rams are one of those like teams you don't want to face that can make a little bit of noise. I don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl or even the NFC title game, but they are healthy and Matthew Stafford's still Matthew Stafford, and Sean McVay is Sean McVay, and they could have an upset here.
JB Long, voice of the Rams, will join us tomorrow on John and Jim at 3:30.
Yeah. And then the other matchup that I'm intrigued by is actually a 2-7 matchup. Can you guess which one that is?
Yeah, Eagles Packers.
Nope.
Well, then the other one.
Bills Broncos.
Yeah. You think the Broncos can go to Buffalo?
Look, it's a team that has to deal with cold weather, going to a cold weather place.
True.
Bo Nix has had an incredible rookie year. Sean Payton has done a really good job there. Do I think they're going to beat the Bills? No. But I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility that it's a good game.
Well, and even the Packers-Eagles game, the point spread is 3.5 points.
The Packers haven't beaten any winning team all year long. They're 0-what, Brent, against teams that have won 11-plus games.
0-16.
No.
They beat more 500 teams than the Vikings have, and you guys were all about them last week.
Calm down.
First of all, I would say this. The number of teams you beat with a winning record is only relevant until it isn't. Let's say the Vikings have the fewest wins against teams over 500. Let's just throw that out. Whatever. Okay? Okay. What happens if they beat a team over 500 in the postseason? Then what do we say?
That goes away, John.
Like what if they beat the Rams?
Yeah. That's why
who they're favored to beat.
Right. That was why the 1 seed was so important, because you're like, now you got to go on the road for every single game potentially, unless like the Packers or the Commanders have an upset here.
Yeah, I'm just always skeptical when it's solely about a schedule. Because they don't really control who they play. Now they control who they beat, I guess, or lose to. The Vikings lost 3 times. I mean, it's hard to convince me that a 14-3 team, no matter who they beat, isn't capable of winning.
What's the most intriguing matchup for you this weekend?
I'm trying to think. I don't think it's I was gonna say I think Eagles Packers has a chance to be a good game, but you just told me that the Packers can't beat anyone good.
They also lost their wide receiver Watson.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about Hurts hasn't played here recently.
Yeah, is he still in concussion protocol?
They had
Jordan Love left the game with an elbow injury.
That's right.
Too.
I know, like the funny bone injury. Eagles sat everyone, which I think is smart, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But there's also that factor. Like, is there any rust associated with it? We haven't seen Hurts in 3 weeks, 3+ weeks.
Right.
They're a 3.5-point home favorite. It's just not a big number. I just think it'll be a really good game.
Okay.
I think the Eagles will probably win at home, but
Packers are dealing with some injuries though. Alexander,
maybe that's the big factor.
Watson, they're out.
Right.
The Eagles beat them in Rio, and now they're going to actually have home field.
That Rio game came down to
the last second.
Yeah.
And Saquon's actually like, in full Saquon mode, opposed to just being week 1 and not really knowing what we're going to get yet.
I don't think the game was actually in Rio. Where was it again?
It was in Brazil.
It was, but it was a different city. I forget where. But yeah, it was in Brazil.
But I mean, yeah. So the NFL playoffs happening this weekend. More importantly, John, college football playoffs continue starting on Thursday with
More
Notre
importantly.
Dame and Penn State. I mean, well, not more importantly,
It's
but
more like it's coming up
recent,
sooner.
more recent.
Yeah, it's
than
like,
the playoffs,
I mean, I do like the format. I think they'll do some tweaking and tinkering with it. So you've got still left in this event Notre Dame. They haven't won a title since '88. Penn State hasn't won a title, I think, since '86. Who are the other two teams left?
Texas and Ohio State.
Texas hasn't won a title since what? The Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. Game of the century.
Right.
And Ohio State has not won a title since the first year of the CFP, which by Ohio State standards is pushing a decade. I think it was 2014. So then whoever wins here will be a long time. Like you're not getting Alabama won recently, Clemson won recently, Georgia won recently, LSU even won recently. You're getting someone. It could be a while.
Today's Tuesday, right?
Yeah, 2 days from Penn State and Notre Dame, 3 days from.
We are on the verge of one of the greatest stretches of sports that we've ever seen. Starting on Thursday with the College Bowl playoff between Penn State and Notre Dame. Friday, you got Texas, Ohio State. Saturday, you got NFL postseason. Sunday, you got NFL playoffs. Monday, you got NFL playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday through Monday is like, honey, don't plan anything this weekend because we have a lot of sitting on the couch to do.
Oh, you're new to this whole marriage thing.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
It still wouldn't work though right now.
I mean, it's a good point. I mean,
you got to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. But I'm with you. Thursday, and then again, Aztecs. We haven't touched a ton upon Aztecs basketball, but the big Boise win. We'll see about tomorrow night. They're a heavy favorite at home against Air Force. And then I'm just reacting to the heavy favorite. Didn't we hear that once and laughed?
Huh?
I'll explain.
Heavy favorites?
Yeah.
Like heavy set?
No, whatever. But this New Mexico game at the Pit's a big game. Because it's a tough place to play. Yeah. It's a morning start. It's a quick turnaround. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big game for both teams.
Yep.
It's a big game.
Yeah, the Pit always is a tough place to play.
Yep.
And now the Aztecs have done better on the road. I'm sure we'll talk to Mark Ziegler this week.
Yeah, definitely.
But he mentioned in his piece before the Boise game how maybe going on the road is actually going to help this team because they played better on the road. The NIL tournament. So far, their road games this year, Cal up in San Jose, they whooped them. And if they made their free throws, it could have been a much bigger win against Boise State on Saturday. So as of this moment in time, this Aztec team right now kind of feels like they're a little better on the road than they are at home. And facing Air Force on Wednesday, tomorrow night, a team that they're favored by a lot against, hopefully gets them back on track to become and remain that dominant home team at Viejas Arena that they've been for countless many years.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Does New Mexico still have Mashburn and House's kid, or did they graduate?
No, they finally are gone.
Okay, good.
In fact, House's kid plays for the San Diego Clippers.
Oh,
in the G League. So you can go see him in Oceanside if you want, Brent. Maybe tonight. I don't think they're home. But
drive to Oceanside, Brent?
Yeah. Check it out.
Yeah, I can go that far. That's about the limit.
You can go to Jim's wedding and then catch a Clippers game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On the other side, Will Brinson, CBS Sports will join us coming up next. We'll get into this wild card round in the National Football League. Darnay Tripp on the state of the Padres organization at 4:30. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, at 5:30. It's John and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. We'll start with the Aztecs. They take on Air Force tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. The San Diego Wave, they hired Jonas Edeval to be their next head coach. And the Raiders, they have fired Antonio Pierce after just one season. We'll talk about that with Will Brinson coming up next. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
Previously on John and Jim.
Can this organization do anything, though? We know now about this legal filing from Sheel Seidler. You got to be able to conduct business. Nobody's going to accept the fact that you took a step back because there was some lawsuit filed. Can we get back to business?
No, we did
In
nothing.
any manner. I mean, they signed Tyler Wade.
Besides the winter meetings when Preller spoke. But
Right.
I still think once the Roki news drops, then they will start making some moves.
Talking Padres. Now, time for John and Jim.
All right. Hour 3, John and Jim with you until 6 p.m. We'll get back to the Padres mess. We've got you covered for the next 7 years on that. Darnay Triple, join us at 4:30. Kevin Ace here, Padres Insider. Will join us at 5:30. Will Brinson covers the NFL for CBS Sports and is with us each and every week here on John and Jim. And first of all, Will, Happy New Year. I know we talk NFL with you. Are you at all aware, as much as you cover the National Football League, does this pop up in your radar at all that there was a lawsuit filed by the widow of the former owner of the Padres and there's this legal entanglement? Is that at all anywhere in your brain right now? I'm guessing it's not anywhere high.
No, I mean, I saw it. I think I probably saw it from y'all's Twitter feeds.
Yeah.
I mean, I also follow a lot of San Diego people anyway, just because of I'm somehow San Diego's East Coast representative.
Right.
I mean, on a normal post NFL season week, I would dive into it because I weirdly like reading lawsuits and contracts and stuff like that.
Huh.
But just because it's Black Monday week, it was mostly okay, somebody sued the Padres. And I don't know. It felt like it's like somebody's unhappy with San Diego ownership.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which I was right. Just like the Chargers. I'll get back and look at this later.
It runs in the sports DNA of San Diego.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Clippers were here.
Yeah.
The Chargers were here.
Yeah.
Sterling, Thanos. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Will, you mentioned Black
All right,
Monday.
thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
No.
thanks, Will. Have a good one. Talk to you next week.
All right,
Black Monday was yesterday, and today Antonio Pierce gets fired. The Giants retain both their GM and Dable. The Bears are looking for a new head coach. Right now, of all the bad teams looking for head coaches, I know you wrote about it. Where is the best hire, best job right now out there?
So I actually they just published that article, which is so fortuitous timing. But I would just say that these jobs are all bad. I mean, look, if San Diego sports fans know that when it comes to football in the NFL, ownership is so key. Having, good teams that have good owners are the ones that end up having a lot of success. And, the worse and worse your ownership situation and sort of how the dynamics, all that work with the front office and the coaching staff, the worse and worse things get. And look at these 6, they are all bad. The number one team on my list, the Chicago Bears. I mean, I'm not a hulking, NFL player, former NFL player, or anything like that. But George McCaskey, I mean, This guy, I'm not sure why this guy's running a team. I mean, he inherited it from his mom, who got the team from her dad, George Hallis. And he comes out today and he's I don't think that, the front office and the coaching staff being on the same page is a key factor in this coaching search. It's what? He's I take blame for ultimately it's the Chicago Bears. It's my failure if they stink. It's well, they stink. They have stunk, but they have Caleb Williams, and they've got some nice pieces in the receiving core with Roma Dunze, who didn't have a great rookie year, but is still a good player. DJ Moore. We'll see if Keenan Allen is back there. Cole Kmet's a decent tight end. You got some pretty good pieces on defense, even if it fell apart after Matt Eberflus left. So I think the Bears are pretty clearly number one because you can come in there and you get Caleb Williams, who didn't put up a huge season this year, but definitely flashed from an athleticism standpoint. And I think that's got to be attractive to anybody that wants to take that job. The question is, can they lure Ben Johnson there? Is there enough stability in the front office? Will he want to actually go against his old boss, Dan Campbell, twice a year in what is by far the toughest division we've probably ever seen, because we've never seen a 14-win wildcard team that we have in the Vikings this year. So, I think there's some obstacles there, but I think the Bears, are your number one team just because they have that second-year Caleb Williams available to them.
You mentioned Ben Johnson. Do you expect him to be a head coach next season? Because, he had a chance last year and he decided to stay and feels like he's the hot guy on the market right now. Do you expect him to be a head coach somewhere?
I think so. I had the Jaguars at 3, I believe. And I think he would take the Jaguars job right now if Trent Baalke weren't involved. Baalke, remember, he, got into San Francisco. Scott McLaughlin was fired by San Francisco when he was there working with Jim Harbaugh. Baalke takes over, wins a power feud with Jim Harbaugh, which in hindsight looks incredibly stupid because Harbaugh leaves and he goes and wins a natty at Michigan. He's got the Chargers in the playoffs this year. He wins everywhere he goes. Baalke hired Jim Tom Sula and then Chip Kelly, ran the Niners into the ground before he got fired, goes off the radar for a little bit, comes back to Jacksonville with Dave Caldwell, worms his way up and then takes over as GM when Caldwell gets fired and sort of has overseen the Urban Meyer and Doug Peterson debacle. So, I just would have major, major concerns about walking to that hornet's nest if I'm Ben Johnson. Now, Ben Johnson, because he's from the South, he went to Chapel Hill, from Charleston. White is from there. There's a lot of chatter that he wants to get back to the Southeast, or at least maybe his wife does, get near the family. He might have enough juice where he could go into Jacksonville and say, I want to bring my own GM. And Shad Khan even admitted with Trent Baalke on the call. It was like a video call. They're sitting there on the video. He's like, I mean, if the right guy presented it, sure, I'd fire my GM.
It's amazing.
It was unbelievable. And so I think Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, probably the only two candidates this particular cycle with the juice to go in there and say, I want my own guy, and have the Khan family listen to him. So I think there's enough landing spots with good young quarterbacks and, decent ownership situations that Ben Johnson probably takes a leap this cycle. But if you don't, you're going to have opportunities next year too. Now he'll look at almost every single franchise at this point by the time we get around to it. But the Lions, you're not always going to win 15 games, but that offense with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff, all those guys on the offensive line, Jameson Williams, they're all young and under contract. So that offense isn't going away. So I think he will be picky, but I think this is probably the year he makes the jump.
Will Brinson, CBS Sports, with us right now on John and Jim. What is your level of surprise with the Giants' lack of doing anything and just keeping the status quo?
I'm not entirely shocked. I think we all think about that clip from offseason Hard Knocks, right? Where John Mara's like, I mean, if Saquon's on the Eagles, I'm not going to be a happy camper. But I do think at the end of the day, there's this weird sort of sentiment that pervades Giants ownership where they see themselves as a blue chip franchise. They don't want to be turning coaches and GMs over all the time. And, when you huddle up and you meet, you have to be a little self-reflective and admit that while Joe Schoen did give Daniel Jones a contract, I mean, it's kind of a foisted contract, right? They should have signed Barkley and tagged Daniel Jones and made him prove it. And so I do think there's this idea that, all right, we trusted Joe Schoen, we trusted Brian Dable to come in. They had this great year with Daniel Jones, the first year. Obviously, things have been downhill since, but they haven't had their opportunity to pick their own quarterback. And so I think you'll see them try to get a quarterback, and it basically boils down to how's this draft shake out with where the Giants are able to acquire a quarterback, and can they get a guy that works for them? I think this is one of those spots though that becomes a pressure situation for and Joe Schoen said too this week that he's not going to go all in on he's not going to trade a bunch of first round picks to avoid getting fired, but they have to get a quarterback, they have to get the one they want. Otherwise, you end up, in a spot where you're just sort of remember when the Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen? He's just the last guy available, and they have to trade up to get him, and it's just a disaster. I think that's what you have to avoid if you're the Giants. But certainly, like, if I would be shocked if they didn't draft a quarterback, and if they do draft a quarterback, that guy's got to look pretty good in his first year with those guys in charge, or else they might clean house again after this season.
So the playoffs start this weekend, by the way. AFC and NFC, give me one team in both leagues that you think are going to have an upset.
Okay. I picked the Packers to upset the Eagles. It's a little dicey, I guess. It's in Philly. It's just like Jordan Love can get so freaking hot that actually I'll pick a better one because I have the Rams going to the Super Bowl, and I had the Rams going to the Super Bowl before the season. I think the Rams beat the Vikings too. They beat the Vikings in Minnesota before. Matthew Stafford's awesome against the blitz. He's 9-12 against the blitz against the Vikings the last time they played. Had I think he completed 75% of his passes, had 4 touchdowns. Like he knows this defense. He's going to be comfortable there. They got everybody healthy. They got everybody rested after a week off. So I think the Rams take care of business as a short dog at home. And then on the AFC side, I guess they're actually okay. This is a weird one. I'm gonna caveat it. I didn't actually put it in my picks that I put out earlier this week, but I mean, I'm looking forward 2 weeks. I think that the Chargers might beat the Texans as favorites on the road, so not an upset, and then go beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Oh, wow. Give us a Chargers-Rams Super Bowl. Oh, wait. Don't.
What?
Well, I think it's Bill. I know, right? So I saw somebody had a good question. I don't actually know the answer to this. If the Chargers and the Rams,
I was just thinking this. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if math can actually work because the Chargers are the 6th seed. So
Chargers are the 5 seed.
Chargers are the 5 seed. Excuse me. Yeah. Rams are the 4 seed. Chargers are the 5 seed. The math is really difficult, but if they both hosted championship games in the same building,
yeah. What do you do?
I think you'd have to do one Saturday and then get it ready for Sunday and just change the format completely because you can't have both of them the same day in the same building with 2 different home teams.
It's not something they've ever considered with the Chargers. It's like Jets. It's like I don't have to worry about it. Or the Chargers, you just don't worry about it for the NFL.
But that is something that's crazy.
Somebody floated this at MetLife Stadium when it got built, and it was like, you know what? We're probably good. They both won there combined 7 times. I was saying the Chargers though, and then I'm saying the Chiefs. They have to win in Houston first. And they are 3-point favorites, which is kind of shocking. Jim Harbaugh got to the Niners, and they didn't go to the playoffs, and he took them to 3 straight NFC Championship games. The guy knows how to coach in big moments. He took Michigan to a natty, and they played the Chiefs to 1 score each time this year when they scored off of Kansas City. And the Chiefs are going to be coming off a 24-day rest period because they sat everybody in week 18 and had the bye. So it's I just think Harbaugh is such a good coach and such a good tournament coach, and that if they can get past Houston, I think they are very live to take down the Chiefs in that divisional round.
Can you walk me through the idea of trading for a head coach? I saw the report from Jay Glazer, the idea that multiple teams have interest in Kevin O'Connell. But Kevin O'Connell has been as successful as any. I mean, his 3-year win total or winning percentage in Minnesota has been unbelievable. Why would Minnesota have any interest, just regardless of what happens this weekend? I know they had this amazing year, and to your point, maybe they lose to the Rams in the opening round and they're out. But wouldn't it take 2 to tango? Why would the Vikings trade Kevin O'Connell?
Yeah, I think one, you shouldn't do it if you're Minnesota. You got a top 10 for sure, maybe top 5 head coach in the NFL right now, and. As my pal Bill Barnwell once wrote at Grantland, the old Grantland, which is
I remember that.
Grantland.
Yeah.
When Harbaugh went to the Niners, it's coaches don't count against your cap space. So a coach is a really, really good football coach is so valuable because you can elevate the personnel that you have and make it easier to manage your cap space. I don't think the Vikings would do it on the 2 to tango thing, but you look back at the history of trading coaches. If the Patriots called, they have Drake May, they don't have a whole lot. They could be bad for a couple of years. If they called the Vikings, were we'll give you 3 first-round picks for Kevin O'Connell. I guess you don't do it, but you definitely think about it. Remember the Bucs and Gruden, and it paid off immediately for him with beating his old team in the Super Bowl. So I get the idea of calling around about it, but I would have to think the Vikings would need a absolute Godfather offer to even remotely consider doing it.
And sticking with head coaches here, Adam Schefter just reporting that the Cowboys have denied permission to the Bears to interview
Nice.
Mike McCarthy.
Wow.
So that whole thing, Brent's a big Bears fan,
fans
and he's like pumping
rejoicing.
his fist over back
Yeah.
there. But like this kind of signals what with Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys, in your opinion?
Well, here's the thing. So Jerry Jones came out and said, if you want to interview with somebody else, that's fine. But he's basically like, you want to go to, like we're dating, you want to go on a date with somebody else, that's fine. But I'm going to take it, I'm going to take it the way it is. Like,
Right.
You're shopping around. Maybe you're not that interested. Well, the problem for the Cowboys is, today's the 7th of January? They have
7th, yeah.
7-day negotiating window with Mike McCarthy, and Jerry Jones is as good a businessman as he is. He's once again kind of done the same thing he did with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, where it's like you waited too long to do this. The Bears have interest. If Mike McCarthy can convince, if the Bears strike out on Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel goes to the Patriots, he's interviewing Thursday, and it feels like kind of a fait accompli there. The Bears could say, we're just going to wait a week and see what happens with Mike McCarthy when his contract's up on January 14th. Because at that point, Mike McCarthy can just walk away and be a free agent and leave the Cowboys hanging, or he can go to the negotiating table with Jerry Jones over the next 7 days and say, look, here's what I want, here's what I need, here's some requirements I'm going to demand, and I don't want to be in this situation. Get the old who's the old Georgia Tech basketball coach?
Bobby, whatever his name is.
No, not Crimson. I love Bobby Crimson, but the one after him, I can't remember his name, but he made the Final Four with
Hackett?
What's that?
No, what's the guy's name? I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he made the Final Four like 20 years ago.
He made the Final Four with Boston, but he had a clause in his contract that's like, if he made the NCAA tournament, he got an automatic 2 years tacked onto his deal on a rolling cycle. And so, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I go and do that. Like, if I win 10 games, I get 2 years tacked on. Yeah, like you want to keep me? Keep me. If not, I'm going to Chicago. I think he'd be better fit in Chicago anyway.
Was it Paul Hewitt?
Paul Hewitt. That's it. Thank you.
Boom. Nobody talks more Georgia Tech basketball than we do. Like we always say. That's why we continue to create separation in the ratings
here
from
in
our
San Diego,
competition.
that's our bread and butter.
That's our bread and butter.
You guys brought up Padres baseball thinking I'd have nothing. I had nothing. But then I brought up Georgia Tech basketball. Really?
All I want to do, honestly, is talk Georgia Tech basketball with you. I
really
love
does,
college basketball.
Honestly, he really does.
We'll do that on the podcast. Thank you, Will. Happy New Year, man.
Will.
All right, guys. Happy New Year. Talk to you soon.
All right, good stuff. From Will Brinson, brought to you by Hamul. 7 restaurants, thrilling games, and a sports pub voted San Diego's best. Hamul Casino is fun above all else. We'll react. Plus, darn a trip, NBC 7 on the Padres lawsuit mess at 4:30. It's John and Jim. All right, John and Jim back with you here until 6. AM radio keeps both voices accessible. Congress can secure its future, but we need your help. Text AM to 52886 now. Support keeping AM radio in cars. Remember, Congress has legislation now. Keep AM radio in cars. Standard message rates applied.
We have breaking news in the National League West, John.
You're right. It doesn't involve the Padres.
No, it does not involve the Padres.
Or the Dodgers.
Or the Dodgers.
Or the Rockies.
Or the Diamondbacks.
But it does involve the Giants.
Jeff
The
Passan.
process of elimination.
Yeah,
Right.
Jeff Passan is reporting that the Giants have signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year deal.
I don't find it overly significant.
No, he's 40,
Now,
40 what, 2?
The thing, he's been great late in his career.
Won a Cy Young 2 years ago?
So now last year, wheels fell off injury,
Yeah.
5.5 ERA.
Yeah, the year before that, he had a 3 ERA and
Even if he meets
innings,
even if he meets in the middle, let's say from the 160 something innings,
4 ERA.
yeah, like let's say 4.4, and he made 23 starts. I don't find it overly significant. He's going to eat some innings for a team that is viable, like a viable team. I just don't see it as overly significant. There's a level of significance to it, but what was the contract? How much money?
I didn't say.
I thought it was like $7 million.
So
it could be
it's,
off.
it's basically nothing.
That's what I was saying. I just think it's a flyer deal.
Does this have
He'll
any?
be 42 next month.
Does this have any effect on their pursuit of Roki Sasaki?
On LeBron's legacy? No.
How will this
Wait.
impact Bronny's G League?
Oh, does it impact the Giants? No, I say no. No. I can go get Justin Verlander. See, this is what I think organizations should be doing.
We're getting more pitching.
I can go get Blake Snell and I can get Roki. I can get Verlander at the end of the rope and I can get Roki.
But I can get guys that can eat innings.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need that if we land Roki, because more likely than not, it's going to be hard for him to go every fifth day.
Yeah, definitely.
He's going to need, at least to start, a schedule where he's going at minimum every 6th or 7th day.
Yeah, completely agree. And he does eat innings. I mean, if Justin Verlander was healthy, he could absolutely be
What did he do?
effective enough and throw a good number of innings. He didn't have he was bad.
His year was bad. He only pitched 90 innings.
So what's a bounce back year? 130?
So 2023, he pitched 162 innings, had a 3.22 ERA. It was 13-8 between the Mets and the Astros.
Right.
And then last year, the wheels fell off. He had a 5.48 ERA in 17 games started, 90 innings pitched. Not good numbers. He won the Cy Young in 2022, where he had a 1.75 ERA and 175 innings pitched and 218 strikeouts.
Right.
Or no, sorry, 185 strikeouts. My bad.
But you can't be Father Time. Like
No.
1 or 2 years
Once
is a big
it-
deal when you're 42.
Once Father Time comes knocking, it's over.
I'm not saying it's over. I think he probably has some level of. I think it probably has some value. I just don't think it's significant. He had a negative
No.
0.3 WAR last year. So let's say you turn that around, your negative 0.3 WAR, and you add 1 WAR to it. That's a 0.7 WAR year. I don't think he's more than a 1 WAR player.
I agree with you, but I am looking at his numbers. And from age 35 to age 40,
Yeah, he was great.
he was amazing.
He was amazing. I know. So are you gonna recapture that for a half a year? Maybe.
Maybe you do. Maybe he does give you 160 innings and he has a 3.22 ERA.
I'm not saying it's impossible. And I give actually the Giants credit because, again, these are the moves that an organization that's trying to bump themselves from 85 wins to 87 wins. This is the type of move you're making. You're trying to squeeze another win or two
How much
out
is
of your team.
Do you know the money for this? Does it say the money?
No, I didn't say, for some reason my head told me 7 million, but that seems very low, right?
Jeff Passan, I don't see any money. For
Okay.
Jeff Passan.
All right.
But
We'll find out soon enough.
if it is a $7 million one year $7 million,
But I'm
deal,
making that up.
whatever it is.
Right.
That's I mean, for the market right now, it's like you can't get a pitcher for anything less than 15 million.
I was going to say it can't be 7, right? I mean, he is 42 and only played a half a year.
Yeah, like where's Max Scherzer going to land if he wants to
Right.
pitch or if he's going
Right.
to pitch again?
So the Giants, Adames, Verlander again on the fringes.
Yeah, they're in on Roki.
Yeah. No, they may be. Honestly, like that to me, I'm not going to be shocked. I've said this. The Dodgers-Padres thing, we all think that. And I do think that that's very possible, specifically with the Dodgers. I'm not going to be shocked if it's the Giants. I'm not.
Like I said, the Giants organization now with Buster in charge is not going to, at first, allow him to, fall flat on his face right away.
Absolutely.
Now, they still might suck next year. Absolutely, they could. But the Willy Adames signing, getting Justin Verlander, I don't think it's going to really matter much.
I don't think they'll suck.
Be in on Roki. If they do end up landing like a Jack Flaherty, or if they make another big splash and they sign Pete Alonso, that's still out there as well.
I don't think they'll suck. Now, they were 80 and 82 last year, and that's kind of been where they've sat the last couple of years. But again, you go +5 in wins, and all of a sudden you're vying for a postseason spot at 85 wins.
Right.
All right, on the other side, Darnay Tripp, his reaction to Sheel Seidler's lawsuit next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. San Diego State takes on Air Force tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day, just moments ago, Adam Schefter reporting that the Cowboys have blocked the Bears from interviewing Mike McCarthy to be their next head coach, but the Bears are going to instead interview former head coach Pete Carroll on Thursday. And the Raiders today, they fired Antonio Pierce after one season. Also, baseball news of the day, the Giants, they signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $15 million deal. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal, John. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
I would like to call a friend of the show, Darnay Trip NBC7. He does really good.
Also,
work.
producer of the show.
Right.
Also, what else?
He's a friend. And he's a friend of the show, and he does really good work on NBC7 and his On Fire podcast. He's been covering the story like we've been covering the story. He's got good perspective and insight. And that's why we're very much. We appreciate you joining us here. Happy New Year, Darnay. Yeah, Darnay from NBC7 on John and Jim. So you spoke on this yesterday at length. We've done the same for the last 24, 36 hours. How do you see it in terms of impacting the on-field results for the Padres?
First off, what a generous introduction. Wow, I feel so good about myself. I appreciate it.
An award-winning show.
Oh, yeah, award-winning. Yeah.
Award nominated, not winning. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Oh.
Award-winning John and Jim radio program. I think, that I don't think it can be ignored. Obviously, the bigger, heavier question, surround the ultimate direction of the franchise, who ends up being the control person moving forward, because you have, obviously two different parties, but two different parties that kind of connect with the fan base. Well, one really does, one doesn't really. And two parties that seem to have very different visions for the future and what that role should do for the franchise and all that. Kind of take two different paths. But yeah, there's a difference that happens. And there's going to be players that they pursue, including the biggest name on the market that you guys have talked about daily for the last couple months.
Correct.
How aware is Roki Sasaki of all this? Does he have somebody that's keeping him, tuned into the inner workings of various franchises? Yes, they just won Baseball America Franchise of the Year, but the ownership essentially of the team is, or the direction, the control of the team is going to litigation, and there's some uncertainty there. And if it goes one way, I think the fan base and all of us hope that it's a little bit more aligned with Peter Seidler's vision and how he ran the franchise, which would suggest more spending, more star power. If it goes the other way, you'd think, okay, this is an ownership group that might not be so willing to open up the pocketbook. It might not be so willing to surround me with star players. I would think that might mean something to somebody who's a free agent, whether it's Roki Sasaki or otherwise. The fact is, it doesn't change who would have been in control in the interim anyways, right? Unless there's another curveball, it's going to be John Seidler, it's going to be the brothers kind of steering the ship. And I think we're pretty well acquainted with how they plan on doing business. So hopefully it doesn't change things too dramatically, but you got to think it'll be a factor now going forward as they kind of go shopping for players to fill out their roster for 2025.
You're obviously on social media, so you've seen it all. There's a lot of support for Sheel in this case right now from what everybody has seen in this lawsuit. And I've said, the court of public opinion has already been decided that unless something drastic happens with John and Matt and Robert Seidler, the public and the fan base, they're going to have a very tough time in trying to relay to them what their vision is and getting the fans on their side. Do you agree?
Yeah, Jim, it's all over Blue Sky, which you know.
What is Blue Sky? Is it still around? And why are you still using it?
Darnay use it.
You don't use it.
I do use it.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. I was mad. John has more followers than me. I had him by like 100 early on, and now he's surpassed me. So I'm upset about that.
Must be nice.
But look, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, it is no contest in the court of public opinion. Sadly, well, not sadly or not, I don't know. That doesn't really matter in terms of how this all plays out.
It doesn't matter in a courtroom.
But what it, to your point, like, it's also going to play out, at the gate, at the concession stand, jersey sales and all that. And even if, and kind of going back to what I was saying before, like, I think people have affection for Sheel because of who she is in her relationship with Peter Seidler. And so it's not all just because, like, hey, maybe she'll spend more money.
Right.
But there is that part of it, too. I think she represents the hope that the club would go back to their free spending ways and the willingness to do whatever it takes to field a championship contending club. And so I think that's certainly a factor in the eyes of fans who have seen what's happened in the last year and aren't so enthusiastic about the direction of the franchise. And even if a situation came about where Sheel took over and they're still operating under the CBT and they're having to be kind of responsible, it's maybe easier to sell it if you are familiar with, or if as a fan, you have some affection for or belief in the person that's running the show. The Seidler brothers and Eric Katsenda as an extension to them don't really have that. And they haven't been visible. We haven't really gotten to know them. We don't know much about them. And so there's going to be obviously some skepticism towards them. And if things go in that direction and they are not willing to invest the same way, and we don't really know who these people are, I think it's safe to assume it'll sour the fan base, and there's people that would probably be less inclined to pay for season tickets and pay and we know how exorbitant it is to go to any sporting event, might not be as willing to do that when they don't feel like they're being rewarded and invested in the same way they were when Peter Seidler was running the show.
I think that's well said. Darnay Tripp, NBC7 with us right now on John and Jim. I mean, it just appears from the outside it would make them less likely to land Roki Sasaki, this lawsuit or this infighting. Would you agree with that? I mean, we don't obviously have the greatest feel, but in terms of more likely or less likely, like, this can't be perceived as a positive, right?
I would think not. But according to the executives at Bob Nightingale,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Spoken to, and I just don't know what to make of any of that. Like, are these executives who have been in a room with Joe Wolf and Roki Sasaki, like, how tuned in are they to those conversations? Is this just a hunch, like all this has seemingly been to this point? But yeah, it's hard to imagine this helping. But we also don't know how players kind of view a lot of this stuff. Like, I think for some it's, those are the guys up in the owner's suite, and we'll shake hands from time to time. We'll probably see them at spring training. They'll be in the clubhouse if we're popping champagne. But how much does that matter, especially when you have somebody coming from overseas that's a little bit younger in their career? I would think the presence of a Yu Darvish, your comfort level in a city and all that would probably mean a little bit more. But if you're the type of player where, like, all the details matter and you're thinking long term and how that could impact you, when you don't know who the owner is and how they're going to operate and what that could mean for your earning potential or your ability to play for a winner, I would imagine that'd be a factor in a case like this. It can't help.
So this thing could take years potentially before it even gets resolved. But if I asked you, like, all right, pick one, 12 months from now, this team sells to an ownership group with deep pockets led by, I don't know, Theo Epstein, or wait this out to see if Sheel does win this lawsuit and gain control of the Padres, and what would you pick?
That's a tough one. I mean, look, Sheel Seidler's obviously been through a lot.
Well, exactly, yeah.
By all accounts, a stand-up individual, and people that have been around her, have a lot of affection for her and the way she carries herself. And so I think, like a lot of people, you hope for the best for somebody that is in her situation, even just based on the fact that she just lost her husband a year ago or a year plus ago. And so it's a hard thing. I think, a lot of people would love to see things break well in her favor. But there would still be some unknown with that. And you still don't know exactly how the franchise is going to be run. And, her being the control person, it's not necessarily her ultimately being the control person. It's her having the ability to assign those duties to somebody. So there's just so much up in the air. I could understand somebody saying, hey, if a Theo Epstein is an option and we feel like we're going to be, players again in free agency in the trade market, given all the uncertainty that there has been and just all that the fan base has gone through the last few years, I could certainly see somebody, choosing that door if it feels a little bit more stable and certain going forward. But we don't know. We don't know any of this. Like you said, timing of it, like it's anybody's guess how this is going to play out. And, it's just a bummer that there's something like this, aside from kind of like the personal dynamics and, some of the allegations, obviously super unfortunate and things you never want to hear. But from just like a purely baseball standpoint, like nobody wants this sort of thing hanging around their franchise when they believe they should be in a championship window or a World Series contending window.
Don't worry. It's only going to be what, at least 5, 7, 10 years.
I mean, we'll see. It could play out. I mean, it could be a long time.
Yeah, it really could.
We'll talk about it every single day, though, here on John and Jim.
Every single day.
Darnay, thank you. Appreciate it. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us again for our listeners. NBC7.
The award-winning, the award-nominated.
Jim,
Nominated.
shut up. Darnay Tripp, NBC7 on Friar Podcast. Thanks, Darnay.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, call right now if you want 2 free tickets to see the Aztecs a week from tonight at Viejas Arena against Colorado State. Big game in the Mountain West. We have 2 free tickets. The first 2 callers will be contestants for trivia. We call it Trainwreck Radio. You need to call right now if you want 2 free tickets, if you want to be one of these contestants for 2 free tickets to see San Diego State, Colorado State. Here's the number to call. Do it right now. 877-767-4760. 877-767-4760. That's right. Call right now. We have 2 free tickets to see San Diego State a week from tonight at Viejas Arena against Colorado State. First 2 callers will be contestants. Call right now, 877-767-4760. We'll give those away next. All right, Kevin AC, our Padres insider, he wrote about the lawsuit yesterday in the UT. It'll be great to get his reaction coming up at 5:30 today on John and Jim. We do have 2 Aztec tickets that we're giving away for next Tuesday night, SDSU Colorado State, back at Viejas Arena with Trainwreck Radio. So let's get to that.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Matt and we have Faye. Matt, you called in first. We have your choice of John or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
Let's go with John.
All right, Matt and John.
All right, so turn my mic on. All right, Faye, you get Jim, okay?
Okay.
All right, perfect. Brent, what is the question of the day?
All right, guys, the Raiders fired their head coach today. Believe it or not, they have had 7 head coaches since 2014. Today's question: name any of those head coaches that the Raiders have had since 2014.
Okay. Faye, you're up first. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
I'll try the lifeline.
Okay, lifeline. Now, Brent, can I use the coach that was just fired today?
I did not mention him for a reason.
Okay. I will say Antonio Pierce. Do you take that? Take it. Take it, Faye.
I'll take it.
All right. Perfect. On the board.
Right, good start.
Good start. Matt, you're up next. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
I think was Josh McDaniels the coach?
Josh McDaniels. All right. On the list. There we go. Faye, back to you. What is your second guess? You don't have a lifeline, so this is all up to you. What do you got?
McVay.
Sean McVay.
Who gave you that answer?
Hello?
You don't get lifelines.
Hello?
You have to guess yourself.
Sean McVay.
Oh.
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Not on the list.
All right.
All right, Matt, back to you. What is your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
You said the last 7 years?
The last 7 years.
Yeah.
John Gruden.
John Gruden?
That was my lifeline.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Faye, you're going to need this to stay in the game here. What is your final guess? You do not have a lifeline, so what do you got?
I have no idea. I don't know a lot about basketball, but thank you.
Okay.
Football, but we get it.
Not on the list. It's okay, Faye. Thanks for playing.
Is that it? Matt's the winner?
Well, she just doesn't want to. No, Matt needs to get this right. Or no, Matt got it right.
Matt won.
That's right.
Matt wins.
All right. Good game. Matt, congrats. You won. Who's on this list? Raiders head coaches.
Jack Del Rio, I know, is on the list.
Yep.
So Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce. Are we counting interim head coaches?
He wasn't really an intern. They didn't count him as an intern.
Okay.
You're talking about Rich Bisaccia.
Yeah.
They counted him as a head coach. They didn't count him as interim.
All right. So who's on the list?
Dennis Allen, Tony Sperano,
Oh, yeah.
Jack Del Rio, then Chucky, then Rich Bisaccia, Josh McDaniels, and then Antonio Pierce got the axe today.
All right, Matt, you have won 2 free tickets to see San Diego State take on Colorado State.
I was either doing Raiders head coaches that got fired or Bears head coaches, so I figured this
Right.
would be easier.
Yeah, probably. You've won those 2 tickets, Aztecs and Colorado State. Next Tuesday night, check it out. Tickets are available at goaztecs.com. All these games are big in the Mountain West, including San Diego State, Colorado State, Viejas Arena next Tuesday night. All right, Kevin AC will join us at 5:30. Much more as this lawsuit plays out, obviously involving the Padres. You'll hear from Evan Drelich of The Athletic. What is on the other side of this lawsuit for the Padres? We've got you covered. Hour 4 of John and Jim. Kevin AC will join us at 5:30. Stay with us.
All right, this update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. San Diego State basketball takes on Air Force tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. NFL news of the day. Raiders, they have fired Antonio Pierce after just one season. The Dallas Cowboys are blocking the Bears from interviewing Mike McCarthy for their head coaching position. And baseball news of the day, the San Francisco Giants have signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $15 million contract. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
Previously on John and Jim.
Did this organization do anything, though? We know now about this legal filing from Sheel Seidler. You gotta be able to conduct business. Nobody's gonna accept the fact that you took a step back because there was some lawsuit filed. Can we get back to business?
No, we did
in
nothing.
any manner. I mean, they signed Tyler Wade.
Besides the winter meetings when Preller spoke. But
right.
I still think once the Roki news drops, then they will start making some moves.
Talking Padres. Now, time for John and Jim.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of John and Jim. Kevin Acee, Padres insider. He has written extensively on the lawsuit filed by the widow of late Padres chairman Peter Seidler, that is Sheel Seidler. And he had some insight in his reporting yesterday that is, I think, pretty impactful potentially. So we want to hear from Kevin, and we will, coming up at 5:30. Kevin covers the team like very few do. I mean, you have Dennis, but there's very few people that cover the team from the beat writing perspective, that travel with the team.
Yeah.
They can share that level of insight. And he's going to join us coming up at 5:30 because, again, Sheel has filed this lawsuit, but John Seidler is going to be in control. I'm curious to see where Kevin lands on all this.
A couple things that I want to ask him.
Okay.
One is, what's the mood behind closed doors in that front office? Because we know how close AJ was to Peter, and seeing Sheel, I'm sure that they are close as well, or at least, probably closer than he is with, I would assume, John, who is now the control person.
Mm-hmm.
What's the vibe behind closed doors? Also, truly, how much has this affected their offseason plans and things that they're trying to accomplish? Has this truly put a freeze on everything? Because they've made zero moves.
Right. Impact on Roki.
And also, the amount of they've had more PR statements about how they're going to keep the legacy of Peter Seidler than they've had offseason transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fans are reading these PR statements and kind of saying, but you need to show me.
We haven't heard. I'm with you on the statements. What's interesting to me is yesterday there's a lawsuit. And then within a few hours, we hear from this Peter Seidler Trust that basically shoots down the lawsuit and says this isn't accurate. And here's why.
Right.
But
it
we
was from
haven't
the
heard
trust.
but not from John
or Matt
Seidler or Matt Seidler, these brothers.
Robert's the other person?
I don't even know.
Okay.
But we haven't heard, and we haven't heard from the organization, right? Padres organization has declined comment. Yeah. We haven't heard from the brothers. These allegations are strong allegations, right? Significant. Yeah. Some would say bombshell. These are significant statements being filed in this lawsuit by Sheel. And we heard from the trust that said this isn't accurate, and here's why. But we haven't heard from John. We haven't heard from the brothers. We haven't heard from the Padres. And we don't hear a lot from, but this has been our complaint for 15 months. You don't hear from those representing the ownership of the San Diego Padres, even though there's so much interest and intrigue from the fan base, yet ownership just goes quiet. You just don't hear.
It's a drastic difference from when Peter was here. Kevin could call Peter. Marty had Peter on her YouTube channel a lot. Peter was very accessible. He could be reached very easily by a lot of people in town.
On cue, Matt Seidler has responded to the allegations, and Kevin Acee just published an article.
Well, okay.
55 seconds ago. It says Padres not going anywhere and lawsuit will not be a distraction. See, that's what I would say too. Rule number one of PR is calm everyone down.
Try to calm everyone down, yeah.
Critical, when there's something going on that's I don't know, an emergency type situation, you got to calm the masses, right? So that's just the headline. Matt Seidler responds to Sheel Seidler saying the Padres aren't going anywhere and the lawsuit will not be a distraction. In a letter addressed to the Padres partners and faithful fans sent Tuesday afternoon to the team's corporate partners, Seidler refuted allegations in Sheel Seidler's lawsuit against him and his brother and provided accounts of events counter to Sheel Seidler's claims. Man, this really is a he said, she said, Jim. Right?
Well, we kind of knew that from the statement yesterday by the trust, I guess.
He wrote, Sheel's claims against Bob and me are completely untrue, and we will vigorously defend ourselves against them. That said, the false accusations in her complaint will not distract the Padres organization from continuing its great momentum. What momentum? On and off the field in San Diego. Denies the idea of a relocation. He called the idea laughable.
It says here, last July, after months of discussion about the permanent control person decision, Sheel unexpectedly asked me to designate her as the control person. Matt Seidler wrote in Tuesday's letter, quote, it was a confusing request as Sheel had previously told multiple family members that she knew that Peter did not want her to be the control person. In fact, on May 30th, 2024, she told me that she felt John would be the optimal control person for the Padres franchise to fulfill Peter's vision. Nevertheless, I considered Sheel's request and ultimately determined, consistent with Peter's perspective, that she was not qualified. The letter stated, quote, he left clear instructions regarding how he wanted key decisions related to the Padres, including the selection of the successor as the club's control person, to be made if he was no longer with us. With a long track record as a successful investor, he believed that the important decisions are best made hard, and most importantly, always doing right by the people.
There's a lot in there.
I mean, there's a lot. Quote, if Peter intended any of these things, he could have easily made that intention clear in the governing documents, which he amended for other matters several times before, and after he became control person in 2020. He completely restated his trust in July 2021, which reaffirmed the trustee's responsibility to designate the control person. Additionally, Peter's trust agreement specifically excludes Sheila from ever serving as a trustee and gives her no role or rights with respect to the control person designation. During Peter's leadership of the Padres, he never chose to make Sheila an executive director, officer, or employee of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think that this is going to be all based on something. This goes back to what we said yesterday. I have a hard time envisioning Peter Seidler passed, even if it was sudden and tragic, that there was not a plan in place. And I would almost be equally surprised if all 30 major league teams were required to have some type of document in the event of a change in chairperson. If there's an emergency or who takes over the event or something, right? So, like, here's the thing. The Sheel Seidler lawsuit is so damning, but that doesn't take away the idea that there might be some legal documents to control the San Diego Padres moving forward that Peter has put forward. So,
My question is, okay, now we've heard from Matt. There's more there. We're obviously on air. It's hard to digest this all in real time.
he's going to refute everything she said.
Yes. So if he is saying, like, under no circumstances was Sheel ever designated to be the control person of his team, and he was never in any role that put her in that position, Peter specifically said to have her not be in that position, then why is Sheel filing this lawsuit?
Because this is a very expensive asset. I'm not saying that is the only reason, but you can easily make the case. Again, when the family gets involved, I'm not saying what Sheel is doing, but you ain't going down with that fight for an asset valued over $2 billion. And she may have some legs to stand on. I just don't know if she has two legs to stand on. There was some type of settlement reached, and she pays back some portion dispersion of power. But I don't know if it's going to be like easily solved or not. But I mean, the Seidler Trust has put out some pretty strong statements, and now the brothers have put out some pretty strong statements. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. I know this: the court is going to be for one time, I guess. And I guess we just again, like this is not good for him. He said, she said. I don't think it's good for him.
Yeah. Says here, Matt Seidler pushed back on what he called allegations against the Seidler family, particularly in regard to messages with inappropriate language from one sister-in-law who has never had any involvement in Peter's trust with Padres. Sheel is well aware that this individual faces difficult personal health challenges, and most importantly, that the hurtful language does not at all reflect the thoughts or feelings of their family member. Matt Seidler went on to write, my siblings and I have always loved and supported Peter and Sheel's family all throughout their 15-year marriage. In the final months of his life, at least one of his siblings was in San Diego by his side. Every single day that he was in the hospital since Peter's death, we have repeatedly sought his work to comfort Sheel and our children, and we will continue to do so.
Yeah.
It's a mess. Yeah. This is a mess, guys. This is going to get messy, and it's going to get ugly. There's two sides that have firmly planted their flag with their position. And I'd be hard-pressed in the foreseeable future, anytime soon, that one of these sides backs down without a fight.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to back down. I think ultimately maybe it goes to the court and the court settles it. Right? I mean, there's a reason that there's a way that these things are settled. There's a way that these things are settled. There's a reason you would have a document that would outline what Peter. There's a reason for that. So whenever that document says, my guess is going to hold up. I guess she can make it harder. They can make it harder. These settlements, it can be long and drawn out. Money can draw something out for years and years. So, hopefully that doesn't happen. Honestly, that's not good for him. It's not good for Sheel Seidler. It's not good for the brothers. For years and years. People getting hurt. And the
Padres fans, the front office, people that are trying to do their job to make this team the best that they can be on the field. Yeah. You got now things like this behind closed doors that it's going to get it. It's going to get ugly.
I mean, when he writes to clarify the record without relocating the Padres from San Diego has never been discussed. And that's a factual statement. I mean, he's one of the two brothers. He just said it on the record. He's putting it in print. I mean, that's the issue. You're going to have one lawsuit saying one thing. You're going to have the other side saying the complete opposite thing. And I guess the court will determine who's actually being factual or not.
I just go back to, look, all of the things that have come out recently, it's not great, but I've said this 100 times last 2 days. Actions speak louder than words. And the main point of Sheel's lawsuit is that his brothers are not doing right by Peter's legacy in their constant pursuit of their first World Series championship in franchise history.
Yeah, but that's not that doesn't matter. That has no legitimacy
at all. I know.
You know what I mean?
But I also will say this. It's also, to me, not a good look that the people that are out in charge, John, Matt, and his brother, that they have done nothing.
True, although technically John isn't even the chairman. It has to be approved by Major League Baseball in the coming months. Like, the person doing nothing is whom? Is Eric Katsenda still representing the organization? I mean, they just don't know what they can do, like Kevin wrote yesterday, because they're paralyzed by the ownership shift. The ownership changes have paralyzed them.
Well, we know, I think what we do know, even before these lawsuits, and is that one of the main focuses of this ownership group now is about making sure the money's in order, and that there's not going to be any wild spending anymore. There's not going to be any over the CBT tax anymore. There's not going to be big time contracts anymore for the, with this group, right? Like, that is their main focus, is to keep slashing payroll but also try to put a competitive team on the field and get away with that being their avenue to say, look, we're upholding Peter's legacy with having a competing team on the field.
Potentially. I mean, we don't really know. I don't think we've given it enough time to know what they're going to do. We can read what Sheel is writing, and then we can see what the brothers are saying. And I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen moving forward with the San Diego Padres. Kevin Acee is going to join us coming up at 5:30 with much more. He has written extensively on this over the last 2 days. We continue to react. It's John and Jim. I'm excited to talk with Kevin Acee. He's going to join us coming up in about 10 minutes. If you want to weigh in, you can call us 877-767-4760. Again, 877-767-4760. We're reacting to yesterday's lawsuit from Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter, but then also the response from Matt Seidler, the brother of Peter, refuting Sheel Seidler's lawsuit that was released yesterday. All right, let's go to the phones. 877-767-4760. Greg, thanks for calling in, and Happy New Year. And you're on with John and Jim.
Thanks. Happy New Year to you guys as well. I just had two quick points. One, there's a secession plan in place for all Major League Baseball teams. I believe you actually have to have that created if you want to be an owner. So when Peter Seidler took over the Padres as a majority owner, that secession plan had to be already set in place. And possibly you can amend that or abbreviate that if you want. You know, you could, I'm sure it has to be approved in some fashion or some way. And then my second point was just this new ownership, whoever it is or whoever the new leadership is, might be, again, they haven't been officially voted in, but maybe they are looking at it in a different light of the way Peter's legacy was. Maybe they're looking at it as in this is a business that needs to be run, that needs to be sustainable over the long term, where Peter was spending, huge contracts for multi-year contracts, $200-300 million deals, where the brothers look at it more along as a business instead of a spending spree and being over the tax hit and everything like that.
I agree with that, but I also think that it would behoove them to, show themselves to this fan base, to talk to this fan base, to answer questions to this fan base, because that's what Peter did. And it's not going to do them any favors if they don't talk ever. I know they got to run a business now, and they got to make sure that it's a profitable business and remains in the Seidler name and yada, yada, yada. But fans don't give a crap about that. They want the team to win. They want your owner to give to care about the fans, like Peter cared about the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And what made Peter so likable is he was so relatable to a lot of people, even though he was, rich as hell.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that all organizations at one point or another are going to have a change in chairman, right?
Over the course of the,
sure. I mean, because just time passes.
Yeah.
So, Steinbrenner owns the team, ends up in his son's house. The point is, that's every organization across business and sport. And he makes a good point. He said, I don't know this is fact, but I'm looking at an article right now in the that Major League Baseball basically requires a succession plan in place, which to me makes a lot of sense. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that I'd have to assume that, and I'll have to read up on it. But you have to assume that this isn't just like Peter passes and we're like, what do we do with the San Diego Padres? There's just no way that's how this played out.
Yeah, I know.
So assuming that's not how it played out, and it was left in some document, then I think that document determines what happens with the Padres.
Yeah, and in that piece by Kevin, Matt Seidler said that, it's laughable that we even think about moving the franchise or staying here, the best fans in baseball, like that. That's a good thing to hear, from the fans for the fans, because what Sheel's lawsuit pointed out yesterday is no, they're actually potentially looking to relocate and maybe sell, or not sell, but sell off shares and yada, yada, yada. So that is important to hear. I never even thought for a second yesterday that was going to be a reality, that this team was going to end up moving. I just never thought that, even before we heard Matt's comments today. But if this offseason they already have re-signed Jurickson Profar, they gave a long-term contract to either Jackson Merrill or Michael King. So they did trade Dylan Cease for prospects and to make sure that they could stay under a money, and then maybe they did trade Luis Ariz. And then these lawsuit comes out yesterday from Sheel. Yeah, I would still take this very seriously, but I'd be like, well, they're also allowed to do things like sign these big-time contracts still with Michael King and or Jackson Merrill. And they are making moves. They did sign Jurickson Profar. So that's a good sign still with whoever's in charge right now. But with whoever's in charge right now, they've done nothing. So it's really hard to back these people
but it's only
when nothing's happened.
But it's no time. Also,
this goes back to
the last offseason was the same thing.
I know.
And they won 93 games.
But that was the thing that we talked about is okay, we understand this offseason, they got to get under the CBT again. And then going forward, they're going to be able to spend again because they got another that number.
Yeah, that I never bought that, nor did you.
I didn't.
Know what I mean?
Well, that's what we were told.
Yeah, I never bought that.
So
they're going to go under the CBT to go back over the CBT. But I understand that. I understand frustration. I really do. But it's hard to cast judgment on an organization based on what they do or don't do over 90 days. It does look bad. Dodgers, Snell, etc. Giants we've talked about. Diamondbacks we've talked about. But spending in an offseason is not the requirement of an ownership group in any one individual offseason, is my point.
You're right.
There have been other offseasons where they have spent, and they haven't been very good. And there have been other off seasons where they didn't spend, and then they ended up being pretty good. I understand frustration. I think fans will, by and large, be frustrated. I think ultimately the most important thing here is whether it's Sheel Seidler in control, whether it's the Seidler brothers in control. I'm led to believe that's what's going to happen. I'd be surprised otherwise.
If there's legal documents, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but the point is, whomever's in control needs to be able to do business.
Yep.
Right. Like you might prefer Sheel to John or John to Sheel, but whomever is in control, they got to be able to conduct business as normal to allow this team to have a chance to succeed.
Yep. And if they win, then it will calm a lot of things
definitely.
down.
And they may. I mean, I think it's a fine roster. I don't think it's a bad one.
No, it's not.
I really don't think it's a bad one. Do they have questions? Yeah. Most teams do have questions. They're among that group. They have some superstar players on this team. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see if they can win or not with the roster they've put together to this point for 2025. But I think the jury's still out on that. All right, Kevin Acee will join us on the other side. He's been writing about it. The lawsuit filed by Sheel, the response from the brothers. We'll get his full reaction on the other side of John and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Aztecs take on Air Force tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that right here on San Diego Sports 760. NFL news of the day. Raiders, they have fired Antonio Pierce after just one season. And the Dallas Cowboys have blocked the Bears from interviewing head coach Mike McCarthy for their head coaching vacancy. And baseball news of the day, the Giants, they signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year, $15 million deal. Make a move with Anderson and upgrade your water heater. You'll increase comfort and your home's value. And here's a hot deal. Get a free water pressure regulator worth $1,300. Get started at AndersonPHA.com today.
All right, the award show for fans is back. Let's celebrate. It's the iHeartRadio Music Awards coming back to Fox March 17th. This Thursday at 6 a.m. Find out more info about the show and how you can vote for your favorite artist. Don't miss it. Thursday at 6 a.m. We appreciate Kevin Ace's time. We know he's busy.
Thanks, Kevin.
And he's back with us here on San Diego Sports 760 and John and Jim. And you wrote about Sheel's lawsuit yesterday, and it's extensive. And you've written also here within the hour as well about the response from the Seidler brothers, including Matt Seidler, saying the Padres, again, are refuting Sheel's claims. And, of course, she claimed in there that maybe they would even relocate. He's shot that down as well. I guess for our listeners and for Padres fans, Kevin, and for the layman, which includes, I think, us, what are we supposed to believe in, and how is this thing going to play out?
Including me.
Right. Yeah.
As a layman. And every once in a while, a sports journalist has to kind of figure all this stuff out, or try and then explain it as best he can to the average reader, which is all I am, is average guy who has to pretend to be a lawyer and talk to lawyers and all that. So here goes with that disclaimer. It is clearly he said, she said, or she said, he said. Look, the trust is very clear that the trustee has the right to appoint the control person. Sheel Seidler contends the trust that Matt Seidler should be removed as trustee because of other issues, including what she alleges to be fraud, withholding funds, what is termed fiduciary responsibility, that he and before him, Robert Seidler, two of Peter's brothers, that they did not honor the terms of the trust. So then that would negate actions they've taken, including making John Seidler control person. A lot of this lawsuit, and this is not unusual for a lawsuit, a lot of this lawsuit is laying out an argument for the public, and it is that Sheel Seidler should be the control person. That's not necessarily what she's suing for, but she's suing as a part of this to negate John Seidler the control person, and she makes the distinction that she is the beneficial. That's not the she, by virtue of the trust, she is the beneficial owner of 25% of the project. That could be an important fact, but it's not really now, because the trust clearly says Matt Seidler gets to decide who the control person is. So that's where we're at right now.
So it doesn't sound messy at all.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I could have gone on for another 20 minutes, but
Yeah.
Here we are. So
yeah, we all have to become experts on lawsuits and litigation and very quickly, by the way. So behind the scenes, Kevin, with people that aren't involved in this, litigation and lawsuit and ownership, the people in the front office, guys like, I don't know, AJ Preller trying to build a baseball team. Do you know what the mood is, or what is the mood with people in that organization, which, I'm sure they kind of had winds of what was going on recently. I don't know if people were completely shocked by this, but this offseason, what has been the mood inside that organization?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. The more people are in the know, the more quiet they are. And, others wondering what the heck's going on. Why aren't we doing things? That includes people that are involved, but maybe are not involved at the highest level and don't really know all of this stuff. No one well, they say they were, and maybe there was an element of surprise she actually went through with it. This was something that, was rumored. Her fight for this was rumored for, well over a month, if not longer internally. But it's what prompted me to ask questions and press on who was going to be the control person. And in recent days, you heard that this was coming, and then boom, it came. And so what effect does it have? Look, the Padres haven't done anything. And I think I wrote this yesterday, and I think maybe I alluded to it before, that questions over the control person, that is something agents and other people in Major League Baseball have pointed to as a reason why the Padres haven't done anything. Well, that's okay, maybe. But last year, they'd signed Yuki Matsui. That's all they've done by now. I mean, traded Juan Soto. You can't overlook that. That ended up changing the fortunes of 2024. But in terms of signing, like Yuki Matsui, some of the biggest contributors on this team, and this has happened in many off seasons, came after February or in February or beyond. So we can't just automatically say that this has slowed down the Padres. Look, they were talking about before the end of the season, and gosh, go back as far as 2021 about how there needed to be a shift in how they spent their money. And they were talking going into this offseason about, look, payroll is going to be higher, but it ain't going to be much higher than last year. And there were a lot of moves that needed to be made. Look, yeah, they're listening on Dylan Cease. They are trying to find options for Luis Arise, perhaps, other people, but they don't have any takers right now. And, they are also waiting next week, likely find out whether they get Sasaki. And that will have an effect on, okay, now what do they have to do? The trickle-down effect, because their needs are their needs, and one of them is a starting pitcher. So we can't draw a direct line in bold confidently from this situation to their lack of activity.
That's good perspective. Kevin AC is with us here, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. I think you wrote about it's always a possibility when you have infighting or litigation of a sale. And we've seen sales play out across major professional American sports when something like this plays out. Not always, but it is at times, the end result. Would you consider a sale of the Padres organization to be possible?
Sure. And that's only because of what you said. Broncos, Orioles, portion of the Chargers. These are in the last couple of years based on trust disputes, basically. And, you could definitely say that those disputes, at least in every instance, at least partially led to, and a couple instances absolutely led to the sale of the team. So, yeah, sure. And like I think even people involved would say, yeah, you can't rule that out. It does not seem that is their intention. The why we can't rule it out is because, look, Peter Seidler was not a billionaire, despite what a lot of people think by Googling him. And neither is Sheel Seidler, and neither are any of the Seidler siblings. If this goes to where it's like, hey, this person's in control and I don't want to be a part of this anymore, like at least a portion of the team could be sold.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we all know the court of public opinion, Kevin, and how fast that court acts. And right now, I'm sure you've seen it, the court of public opinion is firmly on Sheel's side with Padres fans. And for the new group, John and Matt, and if this remains status quo and John remains the control person and says something, this gets settled or whatever the case may be, I don't know how long this is going to last. But right now, the court of public opinion, they're not on the side of the brothers of Peter Seidler. So with them being essentially to the fan base now kind of enemy number one, like what kind of uphill battle do they have to gain trust back from this fan base who right now is firmly against them?
I would say quite a big one. I would say winning, investing in the team and winning would basically cure it. That's kind of the way fans are, right? And rightfully so. Every offseason, especially when there hasn't been a lot of moves, there's trepidation. And now you throw this in there and you throw the wife of the beloved owner into the mix saying that she's been mistreated and she wants to control the team, and people have their ideas of how Peter Seidler ran the team and what he did. Much of that is indisputable. Some of it probably should be looked at a little closer. But the beloved owner, I revered the man myself. His wife is a sympathetic figure, and as I pointed out, I'm not denigrating Sheel Seidler or her representatives in any way. This is what like a lawsuit does a lot of times. It is to the actual complaint, the 50 pages, in this case, 50 pages, but the actual complaint is to like get it on the public record, some things that you want to say. And this one was well done.
Yeah.
Kevin, did Major League Baseball or does Major League Baseball, are you aware, do they require a succession plan for chairman and control? They do, right?
Yes. And Peter had one put out, and I do not know how detailed, like this name, but this person will decide. Peter had to do that when he took over in 2020 from Ron Fowler as the control person. So, and it was his, decision that decision would be made by first Robert, and then if Matt took over, which is the case now, and then John, if it came to that. So he had his successor trustees. And so Robert obviously stepped aside, personal decision in May. Matt is now the guy in charge, and that was Peter's wish. Now, you can look, Peter could have been a little more specific. I think everybody would agree with that. And you can rightfully say, what the heck to that, right? But Matt does detail why that is. I wrote about it in my story. He detailed it in his letter, and the Padres have created, I'm not sure exactly who created it, Padres Seidler Trust, whatever. There is a peterseidlertrust.com. The letter is on there. And he details why. That was Peter's style. His way of doing business was entrusting the people that worked for him and with him that earned it with decision-making power. And he, look, that's all consistent with what I know. Peter Seidler never told me Sheel or no Sheel, right? But what I will say, and I'm being careful not only because it's like I'm just an impartial observer, but also maybe I have some further reporting to do. But Peter Seidler entrusting his brothers to make these decisions, and Peter Seidler's brothers being more involved than the public knew, is consistent with my reporting over the last 3 years since Peter took over. So it's not like this is out of the blue. It's out of the blue for a lot of people, but it's just factual is what I can say.
Who does AJ report to at this moment in time?
Eric Katsenda and Eric Grupner, in that order is my understanding, and has been since Peter was ill. But Eric Katsenda is the control person now. As I wrote, the expectation by multiple people is that, and that's multiple league sources, is that by spring training, barring Sheel Seidler getting, I think, what's called a temporary restraining order or an injunction. Again, not a lawyer, in case anybody couldn't tell. But barring her doing not only taking, but basically winning a legal action, MLB will still vote on that before spring training, the control people. And I think it's a 3/4 vote. I don't think it's 50%. I think it's just a 3/4 vote. Basically, the owners / control people will vote. And, we'll see what happens there. I mean, generally, when someone is put forth, it's a formality.
And John is the person that's been put forth, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So my next question to follow that up with is, do you know the relationship between John and AJ?
I don't know that there is one, other than that they've obviously spent time together, talked. John has been around a lot.
Okay.
I would imagine, based on both my reporting and kind of the way the Seidlers operate, that, and what I've heard about John, is they're going to come in and basically try to keep it status quo. A lot of trust in AJ Preller and a lot of trust in Eric Grupner.
My final question, Kevin, would be, what was Sheel's level of involvement with the organization when Peter was living?
Okay, I want to first say that obviously I'm not a part of the organization.
Sure.
My reporting, and I think that people knew that I talked with Peter a lot, spent a lot of time with Peter. So my understanding was extremely minimal. So that was my understanding. and it has been not just like from a couple people. That's my eyes, my ears, and talking to several people over the course of years before any of this. So not in like, hey, I need to get some information in the past. I'm talking in real-time information. My understanding was minimal. Now, I'm not making a statement on what Peter's wishes were. I'm not making a statement on what her wishes were or anything like that. I will tell you that from my understanding in many conversations with Peter, his oldest daughter, Sadie, who I believe is 12, is among the biggest Padres fans in the world.
Yeah.
And that there was I don't want to overstate this. I think there was an expectation that not an expectation, because Peter, I don't believe, would do that to one of his kids. But I was not going to be surprised, let's just put it that way, that Sadie became a part of the Padres organization. I mean, she was the one who traveled. If you remember, in 2022, I believe, and I wrote this at the time, Peter was in at least one city on every road trip, every multi-city road trip. Showing up in Pittsburgh here, showing up in Cleveland here, showing up wherever, and Sadie was often with him. Sheel was occasionally with him. That doesn't, again, I'm not making a statement. You asked me a question, I'm giving you my best reporting based on ever since Peter was the control person. And let's remember, he became the control person after the 2020 season.
Mm-hmm.
That ever since then, that I have talked to people, because I will tell you also in numerous conversations with Peter never, Peter both thought nothing was ever going to kill him, right? These health issues, and also was very aware that his health was compromised and that he was not likely, going to live as long as he wanted. Yeah. All right. And so Peter did talk a lot about, to a certain extent, not confiding in me. I won't be called as a witness. I don't have any information here, but he did talk a lot about this being in his family for a long time. And, and I wrote about this, so I can talk about this. A pointed question I asked him in the last interview he ever gave, and it was over an hour conversation, that would it be Sheel? And he declined to answer it. So that's as far as I know.
Real quick, Kevin, we got about 30 seconds here. From a 1 to 10, 1 being, it's not that big of a deal, to 10 being like this could potentially be franchise changing. It's a massive deal. Where would you rate this news that just came out the last couple of days?
Man, that's such a great question, because it has the potential to be a 9 or a 10, right? It does, but I don't know, but it has that potential. It just does. It's not a 1, I'll tell you that. Yeah. But I don't want to be overreacting. I don't want to be, this person that does that. I try very hard to not be that person. I err on that side, but you can't deny it has the potential to be a 9 or a 10.
Kevin, thank you as always. Great reporting. Happy New Year.
Thanks,
we appreciate the time. We know it's busy, and thanks for doing it here.
Right on. And I'll be updating the story very quickly with some response from Sheel Seidler's counsel.
All right.
Awesome. We'll keep a lookout for that. Thank you.
We will. All right. Check that out. SDUT. Thank you. Kevin Acee, who's been our Padres insider here on San Diego Sports 760, and John and Jim. We'll react on the other side. All right, that was good insight from Kevin. If you could speculate, and we've been speaking with like the author of the Sportico article on the lawsuit the story yesterday. Now we get the perspective of Kevin. Again, it covers the organization road, close as any relationships. Yeah, I mean, he's right there. He's right there. So his perspective matters. And he was reported well before the lawsuit. So his knowledge is really valuable in situations like this. The clarity for me that was provided was, yeah, Major League Baseball required a succession plan. So Major League Baseball had that document. And that's how John Seidler ends up as the control chairperson potentially moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean that Sheel can't contest it. He can't file a lawsuit. But Major League Baseball had a succession plan for the San Diego Padres. That, according to Kevin Acey, that was required. They had it. And that's what put John supposedly in control moving forward if he gets the votes from Major League Baseball. To get an updated response. Sheel representatives. Sheel representatives. But I would be hard pressed to have that be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, you're actually right. Sorry. You know, like this ain't going to be a situation I feel like in the immediate future where one side just goes, and yeah, sorry. I agree. This is we are like not crossing this line. We are dug in, and this is going the long.
You know, it makes it different because if this were like, say, between Tom and John, it's brothers fighting. This is between the wife, the widow of the beloved owner.
Oh yeah, like you said, and you're right, spot on from the second this broke. She will always have the public in her corner.
Always.
A majority of it.
Yes. Majority of it, which is still damn near like
right
almost
now
100%.
it's basically everyone.
It's basically everybody until something comes out that could have people go, you know what, actually, yeah, no. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, winning does cure all. In this case, it does.
Yeah, definitely.
Winning will cure this, but I'm hard pressed to believe that a team with this going on in the ownership group behind closed doors isn't going to affect the on-field product in some way or another. The players aren't going to think about it ever. It's not going to affect the players on the field, but how to building that team and putting a winner on the field and signing players and making trades, like that absolutely could be affected.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, instability is not a good word when it comes to this. We had Will Brinson talking NFL earlier, and he constantly was talking about stability with organizations. Like, hey, Ben Johnson, he's just talking about a coordinator with the Lions. He wants to be somewhere that's going to be seen as stable, has the ownership and the vision that can put his best foot forward. You could be the best coach in the world, best manager, best GM, whatever the sport is. You can't be held back by your ownership. Like it's hard enough to win in San Diego if you're the Padres with the Dodgers in your division, so on and so forth. If the ownership gets in your way, prevents you from doing the job that is necessary to help your team win, then you're completely lost. And I just hope that doesn't play out, you know, and it potentially will. Kevin talked about it. If nothing else, it's going to play a role. You know, can they overcome that and still land it? Find that in a couple of weeks. All right, if you